I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have a motion for approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve it.
I would like to amend the agenda.
Oh, yeah. I forgot.
I would like to move the consent portion of the agenda to follow immediately the agenda approval, and I would request respectfully that we limit public comment to 48 minutes tonight.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, do we have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, was that Ms. Hazard?
Ms.
Or Ms. Decatur? All right, Ms. Hazard, motion, Ms. Young, second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That brings us to Dr. Kisner. Do
Okay.
you have any announcements?
Yes, I
following
have
the consent agenda?
I have a few announcements, and I thank you for amending the agenda so they don't have to stay as long. And
But of course, they're welcome to stay.
Yeah. This is not in any particular order. I'm hoping they're all here. Robin Weaver here? Okay, come on. Yeah, when I call your name, you come. The whole world wants to see you. Okay. Dr. Robin Weaver will assume the position of assistant principal at Widewater Elementary School. Dr. Weaver has been the instructional technology resource teacher at Falmouth Elementary School since 2005. Previously, she was a middle school teacher in Fredericksburg City Schools for 8 years. In her time at Falmouth, Dr. Weaver has coordinated SOL test administration, served as the facilitator of the Exploration Academy, which is the school's after-school enrichment and remediation program, and performed instructional walkthroughs to support professional learning and school improvement efforts. In addition, she was Falmouth Teacher of the Year for the 2013-14 school year. Dr. Weaver earned her Bachelor's of Arts degree from Mary Washington College, Master's of Education degree from George Mason University, and a Doctor of Education degree from Augusta University. She earned a graduate certificate in educational leadership from George Mason University. Welcome. Okay. Is Dr. Greider here? Dr. Andrew Greider will assume the position of Chief Officer of Middle Schools. Dr. Greider has been the principal, still is to June 30th, principal of Rodney Thompson Middle School since 2009. Previously, Dr. Greider served in Albemarle County Public Schools as the elementary school principal for 6 years and a middle school assistant principal for 4 years. Prior to entering the school administration, he was a high school English teacher, CTE, and CTE teacher coordinator. As a CTE teacher coordinator, Dr. Greider implemented the first CTE program at Jamestown High School in Williamsburg. He's a veteran, having served in the Army for 2 years. Dr. Greider's leadership at Thompson has been outstanding. He was the division's principal of the year in 2017. This year, Thompson was chosen as one of 7 schools and the only middle school in Virginia to be nominated for the U.S. Department of Education National Blue Ribbon School Award. In 2014 and 17, Thompson received the Virginia Board of Education Distinguished Achievement Award. Dr. Greider earned his Bachelor's of Arts and Master's of Arts degree from the College of William & Mary, and he earned his Ph.D. in Educational Administration Supervision from the University of Virginia. Welcome and congratulations. Is Ms. Nash here? Yes. Good. Ms. Kristen McKinney Nash has been appointed as the Family Engagement Specialist in the Department of Equity and Accountability. Ms. McKinney Nash has been a dedicated Stafford County employee, serving as a teacher, then assistant principal at Stafford Elementary School, and principal at Widewater Elementary School. She will be moving into a new role following her principalship for the past 11 years at Widewater Elementary School. She is looking forward to continuing her work from a broader division-level perspective. Ms. McKinney-Nash will be working with students, staff, and families to strengthen homeschool relationships in pre-K to grade 12. She has earned her Bachelor's of Science degree in Special Education and General Education from Hampton University and a Master's of Education degree in Administration and Supervision from Virginia Commonwealth University. Welcome and congratulations. The last person I know is not here. He had another commitment. I'm just going to read very briefly. Scott Elchenko. Oh, is he here? Oh, okay. If he's here, I'll say. Okay. Anyway, Mr. Scott Elchenko will assume the position of principal of Stafford Middle School. Mr. Elchenko has been a principal at Hartwood Elementary School since 2012. He has 5 years' experience as assistant principal for Alexandria City Public Schools and King George Public Schools, and he's taught for 6 years, 5 years, which were at Grafton Village Elementary School.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to item 5.01, awards and recognitions. I want to recognize Ms. Cherie Johnson, Director of Strategic Communication and Community Engagement, for presentation of awards.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Kisner. It is my pleasure to announce the VSBA Business Honor Roll recipients. Honorees, when I call your company name, please come forward. Mr. Vernon Green with G-Cube Community Services, Mr. Reginald Adams with ABM Industries, Ms. Debbie Seacrest with Apple Federal Credit Union. In recognition of your support for the Stafford School Board and the public school students in the division, we would like to thank you for your commitment and service. Your work has aided the focused goal of providing the best public education we can for the children who attend our schools. We thank ABM Industries for supporting students and staff by serving as a diamond sponsor, donating $5,000 at the Stafford Education Foundation 5th Annual Golf Tournament, and providing a $500 donation to Operation Warm Coats for Kids program. We also recognize Apple Federal Credit Union for providing a student-led bank at North Stafford High School, donating $25,000 to the New Teacher Institute, funding student scholarships annually, providing $4,000 for the SCPS Support Service Members of the Year program, securing up to 400 backpacks for the Collect for Kids Back to School drive, donating $2,250 for the SCPS Operation Warm Coats for Kids program, serving as a member of the Stafford Education Foundation, supporting the SCF Innovative Teacher Grants, and providing monetary donation for SCF annual golf tournaments. And we thank G-Cube Community Services and G-Cube Enterprises for providing a mentorship program at 10 elementary schools to teach character development through science, technology, engineering, art, and math, providing an apprenticeship program that supports high school seniors as they transition to college, the military, and the workforce, serving as a volunteer coach for Sea-Perch, the Focus Program, and Career Cafe, sponsoring a Chick-fil-A breakfast for all elementary, middle, and high school counselors, and donating 30 laptops, 4 robotic kits, and 150 Thanksgiving and holiday dinners for SCPS families in need. We recognize ABM Industries, Apple Federal Credit Union, and G-Cube Community Service and G-Cube Enterprises for the 2019 VSBA Business Honor Roll for their dedication, commitment, and service to the students and staff of Stafford County Public Schools. Businesses, large and small, play a vital role in supporting local communities and schools. Their contributions are invaluable, and for this, we say thank you.
Chicken needs to be in the middle. Put some color in there. Oops. Look. It's hot.
Thank you. We'd next like to recognize Ms. Dinah Robinson, CTE and Workforce Readiness Lead, for presentation of awards.
I would like to ask Lisa White Morrell to please come forward. Good evening, Madam Chairman, school board members, and Dr. Kisner. I have the pleasure tonight of recognizing Lisa White Morrell, our Career and Technical Education Facilitator, for being chosen to receive the Virginia Association for Teachers of Family and Consumer Sciences Distinguished Service Award for 2019. The Distinguished Service Award is presented to a teacher, present or past, who made significant contributions to the improvement, promotion, development, and progress of family and consumer sciences education on the local, state, and national levels during his or her career. Lisa was a family and consumer science teacher for 18 years, during which time she also served as a Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America advisor, with 36 state competitive winners and 10 national competitive winners. She has been the Career and Technical Education Facilitator for Stafford County Schools for the last 5 years and has served on the VADFAC's Board of Directors as reporter for 3 years. We are very proud of all of her accomplishments. Please join me in congratulating Lisa White Morrell.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Tim Roberts, Assistant Principal of Brook Point High School, for presentation of awards.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, school board members, and Dr. Kisner. The following students are recognized for their involvement in the Brook Point Cyberpatriots. Audience, please hold your applause until the end. Students, please come forward when I call your name. Stephen Cipher, Hunter Fields, Mario Martinez, Tyler Oldendick, and Hunter Zelmer. Cyberpatriots is a national youth cyber education program created in the United States to help direct students toward careers in cybersecurity or other science, technology, engineering, and mathematic disciplines. Each Tuesday and Thursday, these students gather after school to utilize their knowledge gained through their cybersecurity course to prepare for Cyberpatriots competition. Competitions are held on Saturdays and generally last 6 hours. Benefits of this program include exposure to Cisco, Net Academy, Linux, Ubuntu, and various operating systems. The technology skills these students gain are invaluable assets to the cybersecurity industry, to the workforce, and to prepare students for higher education learning, and therefore we are so thankful for their dedication and time. Brook Point's Team Alpha participated in the Air Force Association Youth Competition Cyber Patriots semifinal round. It featured the annual National Youth Cyber Defense Competition for high school and middle school students. The team placed 497 out of 1,206 teams, finishing in the top 41%. This was the team's first years of participation in the Cyber Patriots competition. We are so proud of our senior Blackhawk Cyber Patriots team and know they will continue to soar and do great things in the future. Congratulations to the Brook Point's Team Alpha and to their loving and supportive family. Again, a round of applause for Stephen Cipher, Hunter Fields, Mario Martinez, Tyler Oldendick, and Hunter Zelmer.
All right, next we want to recognize Ms. Wendy Martin Johnson, Executive Director of Student Services, for a presentation of awards.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Kisner. It's my pleasure to present an award that was brought to us from Paula Horton, the nurse at Mountain View High School, who's been recommended or has recommended this award to James Stemple for a life-saving award related to an incident that occurred in the cafeteria. A student who was in the cafeteria during lunch began choking.
Can we ask Dr. Stemple to come down? I see him back there.
We have a few, so let me go ahead and have them come down. Jonathan DeLima, Anthony Michael Milan, and Dr. Stemple.
Thank you.
A student was in the cafeteria during lunch and began choking on a chicken sandwich. The student walked towards some other students with his hands near his throat, that universal choking sign, and tapped other students on the shoulder on the way to get their attention to the fact that he was choking. Nearby student Jonathan DeLima recognized that the student was choking and attempted the Heimlich maneuver, while student Anthony Michael Milan waved to get the attention of Dr. Stemple and Mrs. Tryon. Dr. Stemple and Mrs. Tryon came over to investigate. It was at that time that Dr. Stemple recognized the student was choking and immediately administered the Heimlich maneuver, changing the situation from a full obstruction to a partial obstruction. The school nurse was notified of the situation as soon as Dr. Stemple and Mrs. Tryon were aware. The student was able to finish clearing his airway and had no complications from the incident. The student left school to be cleared by their private medical doctor and returned to school the next day. So please help me in recognizing their ability to see this urgent situation and to act quickly. These acts were commendable and heroic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Joshua Shrimp, Energy Management Specialist, for presentation of awards.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Kisner. Stafford County Public Schools has developed and maintained a very strong and active recycling program throughout all levels of the school division since 2006. To ensure the program stays relevant, educates our students, and supports sound conservation practices, the division instituted several internal contests to promote the recycling. Tonight, we will recognize schools and individuals in 2 of these contests. Before I do that, I'd like to invite representatives from 2 of our business partners to come forward and assist with handing out of the awards. Mr. Reggie Adams and Dorian Harris from ABM Inc., formerly GCA, our custodial service provider, and Ms. Lindsay Horn from Waste Management Refuse Services. Apparently, Ms. Horn was unable to make it this evening. Both ABM and Waste Management have graciously sponsored the recycling contest for many years with monetary support for award winners. First, I'd like to recognize the Green Education Award. The Green Education Award is designed to recognize individual teachers, paraprofessionals, or staff members who promote green education within their school or school division. First, we'll start with the high school winner. The Green Education Award for 2018 and 19 school year is presented to Mrs. Ginger Beach from Brook Point High School. Ms. Beach, come on down. Mrs. Beach has strived to bring awareness to environmental issues happening around the world due to climate change. She brings awareness to these issues and advocates for reform within Brook Point High School. She has been vital in many recycling projects, created the environmental club within the school, organized river cleanups and litter pickups around the school, and serves as a dedicated member of the Stafford County Public Schools Recycling Committee. I don't think she's missed a single meeting since becoming the recycling coordinator for her school. Her passion for the environment shines through in every aspect of her teaching and actions. It is with great honor to present this environmental mentor and role model with this award tonight. Congratulations. Next, I'd like to recognize the winner of the middle school award. The Green Education Award for 2018-19 school year is presented to Mrs. Rebecca Musso of Benton Gale Middle School. Ms. Musso, if you could come on down. Mrs. Musso has been a part of many projects in regards to her school, students, and the environment. She partnered with Dominion Energy, their Project Planet, for an Arbor Day event to plant 25 eastern redbud seedlings around the retention pond at their school. The event included participation from 23 students that helped plant trees and pick up any trash found on school grounds. The Arbor Day event was a continuation of the habitat restoration project students worked on last year, which was funded by the Innovative Teaching Grant. This project included litter pickup, water quality observation, and the planting of wildflowers around the school's pond to increase pollinators and decrease pollution. She also partnered with Project Learning Tree to field test real-life scenarios, including identifying problems, challenges, and solutions for them, as well as examining the processes involved in making forest products. Ms. Musso also had all students complete research projects on environmental efforts. Students researched their topic and responded to questions in order to show their understanding of the relation it had to managing our resources. I'm happy to present this award to a teacher that has taken her environmental efforts from the classroom and applied them to our community while including her students in every part of the process. Thank you very much. And now we'll move on to the 11th Annual Stafford County Public Schools Recycling Video Contest. The Recycling Video Contest is designed to educate students and staff on the recycling and focus their creative skills on the issue through the use of video media. This year's theme was What Sustainability Means to Me. A winner was selected at each school level. Each first place winning team will receive $500. So first, the elementary schools. First place comes from Conway Elementary School. The title of the video is One Straw at a Time, directed and produced by Lily Tippling. Would Principal J.R. Raybold and Lily Tippling please come forward to receive your award?
I must tell you, I got very nervous seeing Lily here.
What?
Yeah, I could use some of it.
Good job, guys. Next, I'd like to recognize our middle school winners. First place comes from Dixon Smith Middle School. The title of the video, What Sustainability Means to Us, directed and produced by Cameron DeLeva, Braylon Greenlaw, Liliana Gravier, Bella Kamenicki, and Gracie Violet. Would Principal Lisa Basiglia and students please come forward? Each will receive $100 for their efforts. Mr. Lebonsky, come on up. This is the teachers provided a lot of support for this video, and he's been very instrumental in participating in our recycling program and taking it to Dixon Smith Middle School. Thank you all very much. And finally, our high schools. First place comes from North Stafford High School.
Yes, finally.
The title of the video, Talk or Play. It was produced by Thomas Hinkler, Adrian Castro, Tanisha Davis, Juan Azcona, Jacob Zant, Marvin Moore Garcia, and Liam Velasquez. Would Principal Dr. Dan Hornick and students please come forward so they can receive their certificate for this award? If Mr. Leap is also available, please come forward. He had a lot to do with these guys getting this video out and taking part in this contest.
Conway and Belmont and Gay, you know.
Thank you guys for supporting us.
No, no.
Bill was at, I think Bill was at Brook that morning.
Oh, bring the money.
Bill Leap. It's great. You know, he used to be back here. Maybe that's why they moved him.
Thank you to all who participated this year. We look forward to working with everybody again next year, and we'll do it again. Thank you guys very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, congratulations to all our award recipients, and thank you for our sponsors as well. That brings us to item number 6.01. the year-end report from the CTE Advisory Committee.
Good evening again. Thank you for the opportunity tonight to present our Career and Technical Education Advisory Committee report. I would like to introduce Mr. Walter Hom, our CTE Advisory Chairman, who will present the committee's report for the 2018-19 school year.
Thank you, Donna. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, Dr. Kisner. It's my pleasure this evening to present you a review of the Career and Technical Education Advisory Committee work during this school year and a preview of the work ahead. Stand by. This is a success story. First, a sincere thank you to each of you for your support of the wide range of CTE programs within Stafford County Public Schools. These programs have helped students excel in careers right out of high school and prepare for others for higher education. They've also been a notable factor in some students staying in school rather than dropping out. Some CTE teachers tell me as much as 5 to 10% of their class population would have left school if they didn't have their CTE classes to support them. From the perspective of someone who has observed Stafford County Public Schools CTE programs for the last 4 years, there have been steady improvements during all of that time. CTE is a Stafford County Schools success, and there's more opportunities to grow that success. But let me thank all the members of the committee. We've had a variety of members, teachers, staff, students, parents, and other community members. Lest I forget, a special thank you to your staff members, Dinah Robinson and Lisa White-Murrell, who've spent a great deal of time supporting the committee's activities. One additional point, and this piggybacks on something you've heard before this evening. We found in this committee, and I've found in other committees, that student input is extremely valuable. I would encourage you to stress student involvement in all the advisory committees. I believe that at least 25% of the committee membership should be students. We get information from them that we can't get from anyone else. Some of what I plan to tell you this evening, you already know, or in part or in whole. So my point in that is reinforcing some of the CTE information. You may see some material I presented last year, but that's because it remains very important. What's different about CTE today as compared to a short time ago? Maybe 10 years ago or so, or even back in the dark ages when I was in high school. In summary, many more opportunities and much more complete preparation for entering the workforce or following on to a vocational school, a 2-year college program, or a traditional 4-year college program. Why do you want CTE? I won't go over the entire slide, but let me emphasize one of the points: career exploration and decision making. How many of you knew your final career path when you were a junior or sophomore in high school? I certainly didn't. I had no idea. How many of you have children or know of children who have changed their career paths in college or after college, losing large sums of money, or career progression time? CTE allows students to try career paths without the resources or commitment required later in life and gain information for career decisions. It's not a perfect crystal ball, but it's a significant decision enabler. What makes CTE programs successful? Perhaps the most important part is communication of what CTE is and what it provides to students relative to their future in higher education and the workforce. In Stafford County, maybe the parents are the most important target for this communication. I've found that many parents are uninformed or misinformed, just as I was before I really gained information about CTE. Many may see CTE as the VOTEC they knew years ago. That's what I thought before I really understood. This is the area needing most work within Stafford Public Schools. I hear that from your teachers and staff. Good news is they're working hard to improve it. One other point is integration across school levels is critical. CTE really starts in the elementary schools. Finally, community and business participation is critical. This is a common theme for all successful CTE programs within Virginia and across other municipalities. Community involvement may provide additional resources at little additional cost to the schools, but it also provides a constant information update within a rapidly changing commercial world. Your teachers and staff just can't stay up to date as fast as they need to, and that's where your commercial partners can help. Observations and concerns. Number one is good. You have many great CTE programs. That opinion is based upon personal observations of Stafford County Public School programs and similar observations of CTE programs within other school divisions. Let me amplify the second bullet. Stafford County Public Schools can learn from other school divisions about leveraging business and industry for CTE opportunities both inside and outside of schools. Personal relationships between schools, staff, teachers, and volunteers, and business leaders appears to be key. I hear that a great deal from the other school divisions that we've talked to. Not that it's not being done here, but I recommend you up your game. Additional teachers and facilities will allow many more students to realize CTE opportunities. Yes, that takes resources. See the backup charts as an example. While the number of CTE opportunities has increased this year, there's still many students trying to get into, for example, the STAT programs, and seats are unavailable. Another notable additional area is cybersecurity. An emerging issue is the difficulty in attracting and retaining CTE teachers in highly technical areas in which better compensation is provided in the commercial sector. Cybersecurity may be the best example for that, but so also is a new program that's being considered, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, not something you have now, but something that other schools have and provides a great career for many of the students. Different compensation or instructional models may be needed for such programs. I have no suggestions for those, but different models are available. Certain CTE teachers spend a great deal of uncompensated after-hours time supporting the career and technical student organizations. You've heard that in a previous brief. It's appropriate that they be compensated in the same manner that other teachers are when supporting after-hours activities. Certain CTSOs are not as active as they could be or as they once were. Our committee is exploring the potential to assist in CTSO support. Committee activities this year. I won't go over those in detail. One that I like to explain because it's amusing to me is that there's a perennial interest by CTE committee members at the start of the year, at least the new ones, in becoming part of the advocacy program for CTE. Why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? We want to get involved. After your staff explains everything that's being done, all the programs that we have, and all the communications with local and state politicians, all of the CTE committee members say, gee, you're doing a great job. I guess we don't need to get involved. Most notable among the activities were the field trips we made to other schools' CTE facilities. Last year, we went to Chesterfield County CTE centers, and I'll talk a bit more about that later on. This year, we went to Henrico schools. What we found is that the facilities and instruction quality within Stafford schools is very competitive with other schools. However, as this year with Henrico, there's usually something to be taken away. In this case, it's some information on work-to-learn opportunities and communications. Committee's future plans. I'll save us some time here. You can read that. If you haven't already, I have no further explanation on those, and I think they speak for themselves. Sample of CTE successes. Lots of successes within many, many programs within your schools. Just a sample here. Your CTE programs continue to grow in student interest and demand. More and more students and parents understand that they can have CTE and college, CTE or college. It's becoming both an option and an additive factor in their education. This is a great success because of what it provides for the student's future. One of the successes associated with that is you've doubled the number of STAT biomedical program availability seats this year. Your staff was successful in winning a VDOE grant for a virtual reality lab at North Stafford High School. Now, this one directly relates to a visit we made to Chesterfield County Schools last year. Our committee and your staff had an opportunity to see Chesterfield's virtual reality lab, and we went, wow, that is something we really need. Your staff came back, wrote a grant request, got the money for it, and you will have, I think next year, a virtual reality lab at North Stafford High School that provides an incredible capability for understanding the smallest details and functions in human, mechanical, and natural systems. Your staff is already working on several ideas they got from Henrico. So these field trips actually have a tangible benefit. Your CTE programs are yielding significant awards, both at the program level and for students within the programs. Note that this is directly related to the teacher involvement in the CTOs addressed in a previous slide. Perhaps most important, though, is that the student credentials, industry certifications, and state licensures continue to grow. These translate into real work opportunities for students. Recommendations for the school board. Now, I will go over these point by point. Our committee recommends that the school board provide adequate staffing and facilities for high-demand CTE programs. You won't be able to increase every program, and we realize it takes resources, but the paybacks are very significant. We recommend you develop alternatives to attract teachers or different instructional sources for CTE programs where compensation or facilities are an issue. Do we want to start a program where we don't have facilities? Is there an alternative to that? Provide adequate staffing and teacher compensation for after-hours CTSO activities. Pursue engagement with business and industry in multiple areas. Now, I do understand that that's been underway for several years. Your strategic communications department has been developing its business partners for at least the last 3 years that I'm aware of, and I understand Dr. Kisner's Business Advisory Council is continuing to increase. These both provide the basis for community engagement. Develop increased work-to-learn opportunities, very closely related to the prior bullet, And lastly, we recommend you pursue additional student involvement in CTE and all advisory committees. In closing, thank you again for all you do for Stafford County Public School students. Thank you for taking the time to hear about our committee's work and our plans. I'd be pleased to take your questions at this time.
Any questions? Oh,
Very well.
great
Thank you very
job.
much.
Thank you, Mr. Ham. All right, we have one more report this evening, and that's the year-end report from the School Health Advisory Committee. Mr. Justice.
Good evening. How you doing? I would like to take this opportunity to thank the board for hearing our committee report this evening. I will turn the mic over to our chairperson this year, Andrea Aguirre, who has done a great job leading our learning and recommendations to the board. And so I'm going to turn it over to you right now, and thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrea Aguirre, and I am the parent of a first grader at Whitewater Elementary with 2 future Wildcats not too far behind. I originally joined the School Health Advisory Committee to explore opportunities for safe routes to school in my neighborhood. Many of you know Stafford County is not the most walkable place. And as a public health professional and a mom, it was important to me to get involved where I thought I could make a difference for the well-being of the county's students, especially since many behaviors established at this age will last a lifetime. My hope is that the recommendations I present to you today will be part of that change, and that they will also enable you to set forth policies that will positively impact the health and wellness of Stafford students today and in the future. Oh, it's not up. This one.
There we go.
I see that. So the purpose of the School Health Advisory Committee is to advise the Stafford County School Board of community perspectives about the school division's health programs, services, and activities consistent with the requirements of relevant law, rule, and/or regulation. The committee met 6 times during the school year, and 14 topics were proposed for targeted recommendations. The topics were then bucketed into themes, and you can see them there. They were playground inspections and safety, recess, allergy protocols, and McKinney-Vento. To start, we looked at safety and security. Within that, the committee reviewed issues in 2 areas, playground safety and threat assessment. In this chart, you will see an 11-year history of reported student accidents in Stafford County Public Schools. Mind you, those that don't go reported aren't included, and the number may actually be higher. So the chart shows the number of accidents occurring in the school settings, such as, but not limited to, classrooms, playgrounds, bus ramps, or cafeterias. As you can see, since 2014, the number of total reported accidents in Stafford County Public Schools has more than doubled, and playground accidents in particular have continued to rise. For threat assessment, this chart demonstrates the documented threats Stafford County Public Schools has investigated in the last 2 years compared to the threat level, which are rated as low, moderate, high, or imminent. During the 2018 school year, there were 37 total documented threats. This year so far, we've had 46. In 1999, Columbine happened. I was a 9th grader wrapping up my first year of high school, but little did I know that I would become part of a generation where mass shootings became the norm. Now, 20 years later, I stand here before you discussing Stafford's needs to face the realities of today's environments. School threats cannot be thought about after something happens. We must pay attention to these issues and prepare our schools now. Consequently, the committee recommends creating and implementing full-time playground inspector and full-time threat assessment positions. Playground inspections are currently performed twice a year by the Workmen's Compensation Manager and the CPR technician. Recommendations for maintenance, repair, purchase of new equipment, and phasing out obsolete equipment needs to be managed by a dedicated position. As for threat assessment, a dedicated position is critical to keeping students and staff safe. The Virginia Department of Education and the Department of Criminal Justice Services have identified 10 main components of an effective threat assessment program, including that it is best managed by a professional responsible for analyzing, training, interviewing, reporting vulnerabilities, and reviewing all threat assessment protocols. This is a vital violence prevention strategy that will allow Stafford County Public Schools to provide the necessary oversight before an act of violence or self-harm occurs. The board must act now to ensure the safety and security of Stafford County Public Schools students and staff. These recommendations will provide continued vigilance in mitigating risks and unsafe conditions in county schools. The next issue the committee reviewed was health and physical education. The current status of physical activity opportunities in Stafford County Public School or elementary schools are that on a PE day, students receive 20 minutes of recess time. On a non-PE day, they receive 30 minutes per day. Research has shown that physical activity helps students with whole brain learning and development and overall well-being. House Bill 1419 went into effect July 1st, 2018, and identifies that length of recess no longer impacts instructional minutes in elementary school. So the committee recommendation is that students in Stafford Elementary Schools shall receive 30 minutes of recess daily. Additionally, we propose that students no longer be disciplined with reduced recess time for classroom behaviors such as missing assignments or classroom disruptions. When a child is being punished for having recess time taken away, that is depriving the child of an opportunity for improved fitness and mental health, self-regulation, and social development. The policy changes the current best practice and also meets the half the minimum amount of daily physical activity recommended for this age group by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Next, we reviewed the county's allergy protocols and procedures in the area of school health and nutrition. The chart you see shows the number of students in Stafford County Public Schools that had an anaphylactic reaction to food while at school. Blue represents the number of students with food allergies enrolled in Stafford County schools. Yellow represents the number of protocol epinephrine administrations given to students who have unknown allergies or don't have access to epinephrine. Red represents the number of epinephrine administrations given to students who have a known anaphylactic reaction or reactions needing epinephrine. Anytime epinephrine is administered to a student in Stafford County schools, protocol is to transport the student via EMS to the hospital for evaluation. Epinephrine only lasts for about 20 minutes and may need to be re-administered if the reaction continues. Food allergies are an ongoing health issue Stafford County will always face. It's not going away anytime soon. The school board needs to be proactive in protecting the health of students. This is of particular concern to me personally, as this is something that I will face in the next couple of years when one of my sons starts kindergarten. You see, he went into anaphylaxis at 10 months old. He took a taste of peanut butter during an afternoon snack, and within 5 minutes, his body broke out in hives, his face swelled up, and he had trouble breathing. A 10-month-old baby. You can imagine my despair. Mind you, he had had peanut butter before, and I have an older son that we would share snacks. My mind flashes back to that day every time I think about him entering elementary school. I am left wondering if an innocent mistake at a celebration with classmates, like a birthday or school-wide event, will leave my child in the hospital or, heaven forbid, worse. I am teaching him to advocate for himself and helping him to understand what will happen if he has peanuts or peanut products. But at the end of the day, he will be a 5-year-old kindergartner who has no recollection whatsoever of what happened and is still too young to fully understand his allergy. It's up to us, adults, to provide a protective environment, not just for my son, but for all the students just like him. And I have to ask the board, what is it going to take to protect him and the rest of Stafford County students just like him? You all have the power to reduce this risk through the following recommendations. To promote healthy lifestyle of students and further reduce any potential anaphylaxis caused by food allergies, we recommend the board update and subsequently adopt the Fit for Life documents shown to you today. These documents have been presented to the board several times in the past, and it is time they become formalized and implemented by Stafford County Public Schools. It is important that Stafford County Public Schools set the tone and encourage healthy lifelong behaviors. The committee recommends the school board adopt a policy with the following minimum guidelines. Any food or beverage provided at school for students' events such as individual celebrations, school parties, PTO events, and school dances shall be prepackaged, commercially prepared foods with ingredient and nutrition labeling. This is the third time the School Health Committee has proposed this particular action related to the Fit for Life documents. Updating and subsequently adopting the Fit for Life recommendations will also promote food safety and will provide the opportunity for fundraising activities to support healthy lifestyle of Stafford County students. Another area we addressed in the committee was related to opioid abuse. We know Stafford County is not immune to the opioid crisis that is impacting the country. Currently, Stafford County Public Schools does not have a policy regarding staff administering Narcan in the school setting in the event of opioid overdose. House Bill 2318, which covers Narcan possession and administration by school nurses and local health department employees, is anticipated for next month. The policy allows the opportunity to explore Stafford County Public School protocols for the administration of Narcan in the school setting. So the committee recommends the board direct the school health administrator to develop a draft policy with recommendations based on current best practices, Virginia law, and the Virginia Department of Education guidelines. Stafford County Public Schools must be proactive. Our staff must not be put in a situation that could very well have been prevented. The timing is ripe for the board to move forward with this recommendation. The McKinney-Vento Act was the last issue the committee explored. For those who aren't familiar with McKinney-Vento, the law guarantees school enrollment for anyone who, due to lack of permanent housing, because of homelessness or economic hardship. The number of McKinney-Vento eligible students in Stafford County Public Schools is increasing. Providing these students and their families with the necessary support they qualify for is a very challenging endeavor. Being homeless affects every aspect of a student's health. Mental, emotional health, social health, and physical health are all impacted when living with the reality of being homeless. Before joining this committee, I was completely oblivious to this issue. Stafford County is wealthy, and the near invisibility of homelessness in the area masks this problem tremendously. The committee recommends the school board schedule and receive a brief from the McKinney-Vento case manager to inform the board of the current state of Stafford County Schools McKinney-Vento families, including a program overview and requirements for the families. There's a lot to be covered on this topic alone, and it requires dedicated time from the board to fully understand. We also recommend that the board establish local funding. Right now, the program relies on fluctuating grants, Title I, and donated funds. There is no consistent funding for this position to ensure quality and consistent services to the county's McKinney-Vento students. So remember I mentioned I wanted to work on safe routes to school. Kind of got a little away from that, but there are so many impacts to the health and wellness of county students across a variety of topics. Some of these topics are near and dear to my heart. I live them personally day to day. Other topics I wouldn't even have considered had I not joined this committee. The committee has provided you with some concrete recommendations, but it's up to the board to decide how Stafford County Public Schools will officially move forward in positively impacting the health and wellness of the county's students. Thank you very much, and I also want to say thank you to Mike Justice, who was our facilitator, and to the rest of your staff who assisted us with this process. I got so much out of just volunteering my time to be part of this, and I really appreciate this opportunity. Any questions?
Any questions? No? Thank you for an excellent report.
Thank you.
All right, that's the end of our special presentations, and that brings us to citizen comments. Dr. Chase.
Individuals wishing to comment at this time may do so by responding to the general invitation by the board. Speakers shall identify themselves by name, address, and organizational affiliation if the spokesperson represents an organization. Speakers shall also announce the purpose or topic of their comments. 3 minutes shall be allotted to speakers. The chairwoman reserves the right to restrict the total citizen comment received at any particular meeting to a predetermined maximum number of minutes with the approval of the board, and that has been set to 48 minutes for this evening. Citizen comment which is profane, abusive, or which threatens imminent physical harm shall be ruled out of order by the chairwoman. Although the board provides the opportunity for citizen comment, individuals desiring to register complaints against division employees or division programs, services, or activities may also utilize the procedures outlined in Stafford County Public Schools Policy 1113, Public Complaints.
Thank you, Dr. Chase. As Dr. Chase mentioned, we set the public comment for 48 minutes this evening. We have 16 people that signed up, and assuming we move along, we should be able to at least hear from those people. If there's any time left after these 16, we will take people from the audience who wish to address the board, but our clerk will be tracking the time. And we will start when the first speaker starts, all right? I'm going to call the names 4 at a time, so when I call your name, if you will come down and be ready to follow the person immediately before you, that will allow us to hear from more speakers during that 48 minutes. The first speaker is Robert Hargate, the second is Julia Kennedy, the third is Jackson Griffith, and the fourth is Sean Meese. And if I pronounced your name wrong, I apologize. You can correct it when you come forward. Thank you. Mr. Hargate.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, school board members, Dr. Kisner. My name is Robert Hargate from 2 Stratford Hall Court. I am not representing an organization here as an individual. I'm here as a result of Colonial Forge's decision to not renew the contract for Coach Fontana. Over the last few years, he's done a great job at Colonial Forge. Definitely has taken the attitude of a student scholar, a student athlete at the foremost. The wrestlers, when they have difficulty in their studies, can turn to the coaches because of the environment that's been fostered by Coach Fontana. Right now, the students, the parents, we're not sure what's going to happen, what the plan is with the wrestling program. I guess I'm an oddity in that my daughter wrestles. I have all daughters. I don't have that father-daughter dancing anymore. This is what I have. I wrestled when I was in high school. It absolutely gives me something that's a shared experience to have a coach that is passionate, is firm, but is fair, that ensures that the whole student is taken care of and not simply the athlete, that doesn't simply focus on those star athletes that all of us strive to become, but like me, the ones that aren't that good still get attention and understand that they are in fact part of the team and contribute to that. I would ask that please think about the fact that in a very short time, almost 200 students signed a petition requesting that Principal Daniel reconsider that action. And I would ask the board to reconsider that decision because the environment that Coach Fontana has provided is one that we definitely need to continue to have within the school system. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. Ms. Kennedy.
Hi, my name is Julia Kennedy, and I am here on behalf of Colonial Forge's wrestling team, who was greatly affected by Colonial Forge's decision to not renew Coach Fontana's, contract, yes. I got an opportunity of being the manager for the past season's team. It was an amazing chance to meet Coach Fontana and all of the students on the team. As the manager, I got to see the effect that Coach Fontana had firsthand. It was an amazing experience to get to work with and for that team that Fontana cared so much before. Seeing Mr. Fontana in the hallways and him always saying hi and being the truly caring coach, teacher, and person that he is made it feel like he did truly care for everyone on the team, even the managers, which he did. Fontana put in extreme efforts that I have not seen in any other coaches in that way. For example, this year we did not have enough girls to make a women's wrestling team for 4-H, which meant that the girls on the team would wrestle the guys, which wasn't a problem at all, but because the girls didn't have multiple opportunities to wrestle girls, he found different opportunities. He spent his time finding and suggesting things such as the women's tournament that the girls were able to go to. It has greatly affected the team, and I wish that somehow our word could be heard and that the school could change their decision to not renew his contract next year, and I just hope that our word is heard. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jackson Griffith on behalf of the Colonial Forge wrestling team once again. I'm a 9th grader, and Coach Fontana, as you've heard, did not have his wrestling contract or his coaching contract renewed. And for me, that was a big blow because Coach Fontana has helped me with a lot, not just in wrestling. When my grandmother passed away a couple months ago, he was there for me, and he understood that it was going to take time. And he helped a lot with that. And then with the many injuries that riddled our team this year, including my 2 concussions, he gave us time to come back, and he cared much more about us than like how we were doing mentally and physically, not just to produce wrestling matches and wins for the school. He cared about us as people, and not just athletes. And that's something that not a lot of coaches do. A lot of coaches will get hired by the school. I've had personally 5 coaches, I believe, in my wrestling career. And a lot of coaches will be hired by the school just to produce wins. But Coach Fontana is one of the best coaches wrestling-wise and one of the best coaches as an actual person I've ever had. Thank you.
Thank you. And how do you pronounce your name?
Jackson Griffith.
Oh, no, I meant Mr. I could get yours.
My name is
Is it
Sean
Meese?
Meese.
Meese, okay, that was good. I passed that one. All right, following Sean Meese will be Gregory Meese, Carolyn Griffith, and Brandy Quick, and Jackson Sheriff Parker.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Stafford County Public Schools Board of Education, and I'm here on behalf of the Colonial Forge Wrestling Team, as the previous few have. Just last week, on June 7th, we had a wrestling meeting, and that was when our head coach, Coach Fontana, told us that his coaching contract was not going to be renewed. This came as a large blow to all of us, as he was always there for everyone, at any time, no matter what. You could always call him if you needed to, and he was there for you. He was always there to help us become better people and better wrestlers, but without him, most of us here tonight would not be where we are today. For myself, when I went to my first varsity match at Broad Run High School, it was in the back gym, and it was only Coach Fontana and I. And so he was there to help motivate me and push me there to win. Without him there to help coach me, I listened to him, and all that, I would not have won that match. And I later I ended up placing 3rd at regionals and became state qualifier, and all that with the help of Coach Fontana. Because at the beginning of the season, I had lost every one of my matches. But soon, Coach Fontana brought out the best in me and got me to become better and better and got me to where I was. So, in all, it's a really tremendous loss for everyone on the team, and we just wanted to come here today to get our words heard and hopefully get their decision to change. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Stafford County Public Schools. My name is Gregory Meese, and I also am here to speak on behalf of Mark Fontana. My opinion is that the Colonial Forge administration has made a truly bad decision in this case by not renewing his contract. My son, as you heard, wrestled for Coach Fontana this past year as a freshman. He started off the season as a very weak varsity wrestler, and within a month he was winning matches and was promoted to varsity. By the end of the season, he had made third place at the regional finals and had gone on to the state finals. Coach Fontana does not focus on his star athletes as so many coaches do. He looks for the strengths in all of his student athletes and works to develop that potential, a true rarity in coaching today. Without Coach Fontana and his staff, Colonial Forge's wrestling program is in danger of becoming irrelevant, and the administration has placed wrestling in tremendous jeopardy. Firstly, the number of qualified wrestling coaches is very finite. Secondly, the quality coaches are already spoken for and have positions with other teams, as is evidenced by job openings on your own website for wrestling coaches that have been there for months on end. They have not been filled. Based on these actions, I believe that Colonial Forge's administration's intent is to eliminate the wrestling program. In closing, Coach Fontana and his staff exemplify the best of coaching and development. They should be rewarded, not removed from the wrestling program. Therefore, I'm asking you to stand up for the Colonial Forge wrestling team and Coach Fontana. Please rebuke the Colonial Forge administration for such a short-sighted misstep. Please ask Colonial Forge administrators to reinstate Coach Fontana and his staff. Respectfully submitted.
Hi, my name is Caroline Griffith. My son attends Colonial Forge High School, Jackson. We got the news last week that Coach Fontana would no longer be holding his position as the wrestling coach next year. I want to tell you a little bit about Coach Fontana as what I see as a parent. Fontana was a face that we became familiar with prior to Jackson coming to high school. I have 3 children. One has graduated from Colonial Forge. 2 are currently in Colonial Forge. He came to Gale Middle School and watched the children wrestle and engaged in them and encouraged them to continue their career as wrestlers in high school. He brought current students that were currently on the wrestling team. They mentored those students in Gale Middle School. When my son became a freshman, it was never required, but he suggested that the children go to Gale Middle School and become mentors for those children as well. So my son joined him with other students and took the time to mentor and become involved with the Gale Middle School students. He's been in a few other sports. He was an active kid, but not an athletic kid until middle school. So he became involved in sports in middle school. Not any of the sports that we have been involved in have I seen a coach come out, encourage mentorship in the other children. That was a very new and welcoming experience. It made me comfortable as my youngest going into high school that he already had an established relationship with that coach. I get texts in the morning or in the afternoon, depending on when Fontana sends them, that the team also receives. I'm on the link. And I want to share with you a few things that he has said to the students. It's the same thing my son gets. Practice tomorrow, 3:10 to 4:40. Get tutoring after school before practice. Show teachers you care about your grades. That is quote for quote. That is Fontana. Another one, which I personally enjoyed the most, it was Mother's Day, by the way. Hope everyone is being extra nice to their mama today, with an attachment from Remind that says a bar of iron is $5. Made into horseshoes increases it to $12. Shaped into needles makes their value $3,500. Meticulously worked into balance springs for luxury watches, and the same iron is $300,000. It is not what you're made of. It is what you make yourself into. That is stuff that my son receives every day. I apologize.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Kisner. My name is Brandy Quirk, and I am from the George Washington District, 132 Stableside Lane. Put yourself back into your little kid's shoes for a second. Close your eyes and imagine that new bike or toy that you really, really wanted. And you know, us grown-ups, maybe you're grown-ups, sometimes had some really good ways to get you redirected to maybe something else, or you pass it on until there's a more appropriate time, Christmas, birthdays, or saving up money. And then you never get that toy or new bike. And now here we are, a year later as of June 2018, and there's no new school for Ferry Farm Elementary. But we're going to fix that. On December 4th of 2018, I attended a school board work session and included the agenda was to review the funding for the renovation addition of Ferry Farm Phase 1 project. To support option 3, it was discussed the possibility of delaying other school projects in order to provide more funding for the Ferry Farm project efficiency. It was brought up by a school board member that the criteria that has been generally used in the past is the question. Is this a health or safety issue? Would delaying any of these projects pose a health or safety concern? I can answer that question in this case, yes. Yes, it can. Enter Ferry Farm Elementary School. We welcome you to come spend a day at Ferry Farm and have a look for yourself. The lack of communication and full transparency of information is astounding. And it isn't just the asbestos-containing materials. It's the mold in the 4th and 5th grade classroom, one of my sons, the cafeteria's kitchen with no air conditioning, insufficient lighting and ventilation, the culvert out front of the school that was deemed this quote-unquote situation creates a severe drainage problem and health concerns are an issue, as you'll see in the document I provided for you, and a picture of the sinking pothole that you drive over. It's growing. Or how about the lack of safe parking to access the school without having to depend on public roads and parking on the streets? You'll find that identified in the facility design guidelines. Or the car rider line, note the picture, that can extend 2 blocks long on Mercer Lane and require local residents drive on the wrong side of the road to get by the idling vehicles. Where's the priority for Ferry Farm? This huge mess is why I hold doubt in Stafford County Public School Administration and the school board and their concern of the current unhealthy and unsafe environment of Ferry Farm and the well-being of everyone that steps foot into that school. If you had children at Ferry Farm, would you want or allow them to be in the basement? Let's stop all the patchwork fillers and Band-Aids. It's time for a new school.
Thank you, Ms. Quick.
Thank you.
All right, after Jackson Sharif Parker will be Michael Mulroy, Travis Harris, Jeff Adams, and Jake Pollard.
Good evening. My name is Jackson Levi Sheriff Parker. I live 1101 Potomac Drive, Stafford, Virginia, 22554. I'm here to speak about the anti-discrimination policy you guys are working on. Dr. Kisner, I recognize you too. I apologize. Prejudice and discrimination is learned. These are not my words, but those of Dr. Albert Bandura, Professor Emeritus of Social Science at Stanford University, where he has worked since 1953 and whom is widely regarded as one of the greatest living psychologists. In 2002, Dr. Bandura was ranked as the 4th most influential psychologist of the 20th century. When we as a society fail to protect vulnerable or minority populations, we are in essence passively approving prejudice and discrimination, especially when we take actions to prevent such protections from being put in place. I cannot speak to what it feels like to be a young child who has transitioned from male to female. I was not able to transition from female to male until I was 49 years old 4 years ago. My educators failed me, just as you have the opportunity to fail the young transgender students under your watch. My guidance counselor in high school had my parents send me to a psychiatrist for being gay. I wasn't gay, I was a transgender male in a girl's body. These students who have or will transition have demonstrated the utmost courage and commitment to living their best life. I was afraid. I had been treated as an outcast during all of my formative years, especially by the educational system. The Office of Personnel Management gave transgender rights to federal employees in 2015, the year I was brave enough to carry out my transition knowing I had protections to do so. I'm a federal law enforcement officer and have been for over 20 years. Over the last 4 years, I have used the men's restrooms and locker rooms from numerous other law enforcement agencies, including my own, sharing them with alpha males, and have had 0 incidents. Some know I'm a trans man, most don't, and none care. I imagine the same is true in our schools today, but educators need to set the example that inclusiveness is the rule, not the exception. The majority of you think you don't know any transgender persons other than those you've encountered through school. That's because we are an invisible population. Unlike other minorities, we are not easily identified. We get married, some of us have children, we may come out as gay or straight, but our gender identity is not something we share with others unless we have to. 90% of my friends have no idea I'm a transgender male, nor do I have any intention of telling them, as that is irrelevant. In closing, I encourage you to look past your own upbringing and prejudices and make a change for the better, because these students are our future. Thank you for your time.
Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Kisner. My name is Mike Mulroy. I'm at 5 Noah's Court of the Rock Hill District. I'm here on behalf of my son Joshua, who is a wrestler at Colonial Forge, and so I'm here to advocate for Coach Fontana. First of all, I'm proud of the students who have come up here tonight to express their views and the kind of encouragement that they've received from Coach Fontana. I've known him for more years than my son's been wrestling, because I have currently 3 students at Colonial Forge, one who's graduating on Saturday. And I just want to say that the character that I've seen in Coach Fontana, as he's interacted with all of these students, but especially with my son, there's a couple of situations that I just want to tell you about. First of all, I've seen him as a very quiet coach over the years. He's been a PE teacher for 2 of my children and now coach of my son. And one incident at the wrestling dinner was a coach, a very quiet coach, who got up there and spoke about every single wrestler. And the encouraging words and the positive things that he had to say about every one of them just made me realize, wow, this coach knows his students, knows his wrestlers, and he is truly an encouragement to each one of them. My son had an incident this year with another student, not a wrestler, and Coach Fontana found out about it. And he worked with my son and this other student to resolve that issue. This was an issue that could have become a fight at school, and it didn't come to that. Coach Fontana was able to help them resolve the issue. Again, something that I look at Coach Fontana and go, this is a man who has the type of character that I want to see my son being coached by. The other incident really is just how he does push, as these students have said, that it's schoolwork first. My son, on numerous occasions, has had to focus on his schoolwork and get his homework turned in, and at no point has Coach Fontana said wrestling comes first, but he tells these students, your schoolwork comes first, and you need to get your grades up, you need to get your homework in, wrestling will come after that. And so I'm here to advocate for Coach Fontana. I would hope that maybe whatever pressure could be put on Colonial Forge, wherever that decision is made, that Coach Fontana would not lose this position as the coach of Colonial Forge Wrestling and would be reinstated as the coach there. Thank you for your time.
Jeff Adams, Kellogg Mill Road. I'm here to make you aware of a cybersecurity problem you don't know you have. You had an old gray-haired diabetic Monacan Indian who switched careers to become a science teacher. That teacher didn't fit the standard teacher's box. His principal, known as the diaper, had to make the old teacher fit the box. And the diaper couldn't, therefore the diabetic Monacan Indian teacher had to go, which must be biased considering the special education background of the diaper. On Friday, May 31st, a message was left on the phone of the elderly teacher that stated it was imperative to speak to the diaper. Call the cell phone. Not having the number, the old gray-haired diabetic drives to school to speak to the diaper. The diaper informs the Monacan Indian teacher to report to HR Monday morning at 8 o'clock. This causes tremendous stress that could have easily been avoided. So Friday afternoon, the diaper, HR, and the old gray teacher knows what is going to happen Monday morning. What happens next is the diabetic teacher and guest that was not signed in heads to the classroom unaccompanied by anyone. There is 1 week until the final exams. The diaper knows that the diaper has prevailed, and there was zero concern about giving the career switching complete access to the building. In most corporate settings, this is highly unusual. Monday, the diabetic shaves, takes his shots and pills, and heads to HR. Have I mentioned that stress is harmful to a diabetic? HR makes the old Monacan Indian teacher wait an eternity before the meeting. What is the diabetic teacher's frame of mind at this point? HR and the old gray diabetic Monacan Indian teacher meet, discuss, arms are twisted, and the elderly teacher is forced to accept option 1 or 2. The elderly teacher thinks of this and takes the course of least resistance. He signs papers, gets shown the back of the hand, makes one statement, and then is shown the door. The next day, the diabetic Monacan Indian teacher gets an email from HR that states, upon further review, ... which is HR speak for oh crap. So since I don't have time, here's my $1 million question for you. He was informed on May 31st. As of this very minute, that person still has total access to email, grade books, student profiles, everything under the sun. You have a problem. How could somebody let access for 11 days? Thank you.
Jeff Adams? Yes. Followed by Jake Pollard. Oh, okay. Jake Pollard?
Travis Harris.
I have, I'm sorry, Travis Harris.
Jake Pollard.
Right, Jake Pollard was, who's Jake Pollard?
Right here.
I'm sorry. All right, after Mr. Pollard, Ramiro McGraw, Austin Long, Kylie Jensen, and David Susan.
Susan.
You just called me as the next 4. I think somebody might have gone up for me.
Okay. All right, well, why don't, who are you?
I've noticed some of the names
You're
have been
trying.
a little out of order.
Okay, all right, you know what I'm going to do, I'll just call one by one. All right, so, Mr. Pollard, correct?
Yes.
All right, after Mr. Pollard, we'll have Mr. Harris. Is that all right with you?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
I live on 15 Evergreen Lane. I'm here on Coach Mark Fontana's behalf as well. I'm not here to give my personal preference in coaches. Who I prefer really doesn't make a difference. And coming here tonight may not make a difference either, but somebody definitely needed to speak up and let it be known that we think this is a terrible mistake for this team. Coach Fontana is actually the only thing Colonial Forge wrestling team has going for them. After losing practically the entire starting lineup, it seemed impossible for these kids to compete. Coach Fontana and his staff took a bunch of beginners and inexperienced wrestlers and competed in the toughest sport known to man against kids that wrestle year-round and have been competing their entire lives. Not only were they competitive, but every single wrestler in the lineup qualified at regionals for states, and 4 of those wrestlers took first place. When I saw this team for the first time, I had no idea. They were so inexperienced and they were mostly beginners. I've been doing this for a long time, and you don't wrestle like that. You don't do things like that unless you've either been wrestling your whole life or you've been taught really well, and it is definitely all in the training. Like I said, it's not a personal preference. Coach Fontana is one of the most qualified and knowledgeable coaches that the state has ever seen. My family and I moved here about a month right before the season was over, and we chose this school, Colonial Forge, for a number of reasons. The academics, the opportunities, and to wrestle for a school that has been known for their wrestling for as long as I can remember. Not to mention that they have a great coaching staff, and always have. Coach Mark Fontana was one of the main reasons for us coming here, and after losing one of their coaches, Coach Fontana is the only reason that we stayed. Wrestling is not just a sport to my son and I, it's life. I've been coaching the sport of wrestling on the national circuit for 11 years. I've seen the best wrestlers, and I've worked with a lot of coaches. I've coached just about every sport at every age level and skill level. I've known and worked with a lot of good men and a lot of good coaches, but they were not Mark Fontana. I knew all the coaches from Forge in the previous years, and believe me, they were not Mark Fontana. I've spent many nights and countless hours listening to Coach Fontana go over strategies, techniques, philosophies, and I've listened to him talk about how the wrestlers at Forge were growing so fast and how proud he was of each one. He has so many hopes and dreams for this team and all of these young men and women as individuals. Sorry.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Harris. Then after Mr. Harris, we'll have Ramiro McGraw and Austin Long.
Good evening. My name's Travis Harris. I've been a Stafford resident for 25 years. I own a business in Stafford County, and I'm the head wrestling coach at Brook Point High School. You would think, coming from the head coach of a rivalry school, that this would be good news. But ever since Mark has moved into the area and we've been in contact, it's been nothing but positive. Every conversation we've had, it's not about Colonial Forge, it's not about him, it's about, hey, how can we help the kids in the county to get more opportunities? How can we make Stafford County a better wrestling county? But it's always about education first in our conversations, and wrestling, it's a great sport, but the ultimate goal is to produce good citizens, people who are productive, who have good morals, and this guy does it. In the off season, I send a bunch of our kids over to him. He actually trains our kids in the off season, lets them use the weight room. We've won state title the past 3 years, but I got to give Coach Fontana some of the credit because he works with our kids. He is just a great guy, and I'm just here to just say I really appreciate what he does in the community. When I'm hiring people, I see different kids that come through, and I know he has a positive impact, and I just think hopefully he'll be coaching somewhere in the county, and I just wanted to say those words about him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ramiro McGraw, Staff Sergeant, United States Marine Corps, retired, deployed 8 times, awarded Silver Star with Valor, Bronze Star with Valor, and 2 Purple Hearts. When I tell you this, light biographies to let you know I'm here to support Coach Fontana and Colonial Forge Wrestling. And I told you a little bit of my biography just so I can let you know that the things that I hold true to how I feel about myself and my kids and my family. And it's the same thing that Coach Fontana holds true as well. As any military person would have these core values. And one of them I hold most dear is honor. And this teacher holds honor in win or loss, victory or defeat for his team or individual students. Every scenario is a learning scenario. Not just become better wrestlers, but become better people. And it would be a serious understatement to say that Colonial Forge as a whole, our district as a whole, would be losing a tremendous coach, teacher, if we don't keep him. I've seen the progress of even my own son and his maturity and how much he's grown in just this year alone. And I was excited to see how much more growth he can make in further years. He was just a freshman, and he made tremendous progress. And I hope that you hold to honor as much as I do and would help Colonial Forge reinstate his contract. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Austin Long. I'm an upcoming senior at Forge for the wrestling team. And I'm speaking on behalf of Ezra Chikwueze, who graduated Forge last year. He was a state champion for the team, and he just wanted to say that, talk about Coach Fontana. He just wanted to say that Coach Fontana, that he was more than a coach. He was just like a role model for them and all of us other wrestlers. And he was one of the most caring people that he knew and that we all knew. And with Ezra, he helped him get into college and even helped him move in to like his dorm and all that stuff. And that he's just an incredible man. And that they'll be doing the students a great disservice by not allowing him to coach. And I just want to say that he helped me a lot. He helped me get back into wrestling after I stopped after a while, and has helped me improve a lot. Thank you.
Okay. Kylie Jensen and David Sousa.
Good afternoon. My name is Kylie Jensen, and I'm here to talk about non-discrimination and equal education. My whole life, I grew up with gay and lesbian family members, and I always remembered getting laughed at for being different because I supported them. But the thing is, I'm not, because everyone who doesn't process the meaning and feeling behind it. I have an aunt that's lesbian. I have uncles that are gay and friends that are gay, lesbian, bi, and transgender. So I'm here to make them proud and give them rights, because they're still normal people just like anybody else. The rights I have, everybody in the community should have. My really close friend was not allowed to go into the locker room during a lockdown drill. She was forced to stay out and sit in the bleachers while everybody else was safe and she wasn't. Even with this girl using the girls' bathroom, it isn't a problem because she has never made me feel uncomfortable, nor anybody else. I want rights for the LGBTQ, and I want them to be treated equally. Please support non-discrimination and equal education opportunity for the students. Thank you.
David Sousa, 3 Bella House Court, 22554. Good evening, members of the board. Dr. Kisner. Tonight, I'm here to press the importance of having a student representative. I sent an email last Friday with the information pertaining to the responsibilities and the appointing process of having a student on the board. I know Dr. Kisner said he got the email and Ms. Young responded, so it went through. That was good. In case anyone did not read the email, I brought 10 copies of it with me tonight, even though I see that there's, 9 seats, so I brought an extra. That's good. I would like to be clear, the student would not be a voting member, just one who advises the board on, in their opinion, the best courses of action in changing school policies and events. If the board decides to appoint a representative, then time is of the essence. With a short summer, a student representing the 2019-20 student body would have to come up fast. If the board would like my assistance in creating this position, I would be honored. But I must clarify this is not about me. I would rather there be a student representative sitting on this board and it not be me than there be no representative at all. Yet if the board chooses to create this position, may I publicly declare my candidacy. I hope the board chooses to create the student representative position in time for next year. In other school districts, as specified in my email, the board does have the power to appoint the student that they feel most dedicated and qualified for the position based on those who applied. I specifically spoke with the Prince William student representative, and he said that it is very having a student voice. It really increases the effectiveness of if the board chooses, if they have an idea, the student representative furthers more helps envision that idea based on what students know, because they know what their peers want. So if the board, as I said, if the board obviously wishes to take actions that are effective to the student population, such as the change in cell phone policies, or I think it was called the restorative practices that was discussed last meeting, I firmly believe that a student rep can benefit both the board and the student body. It's not just for the students. If the board has any questions pertaining to this matter, please ask me. Communications of ideas is key, as in any government organization. Thank you.
Is there anyone who's signed to speak that has not come forward? Just want to make sure, since we had a little, just a little rearranging there. All right, so we've gotten the 16 speakers who signed up. It is now 8:40, and I have a note from our clerk that says we can go until 8:48. So we'll take the next 3 people and then call it an evening. Please, after you speak, please sign on the list there. You know the drill.
Good evening, Dr. Kisner, members of the board. My name is Christian Peabody. I am the Falmouth Elementary music teacher. I live at 121 Forest Avenue, and I'm also the president of the Stafford Education Association. And that is the latter role tonight that I'm going to speak in with regards to the revisions to Policy 4107. On Monday, May 27th, the SCA launched a division-wide survey to all the educators, seeking wall-to-wall opinions and input on the proposed revisions of the policy. The majority of these responses were collected in the context of the initial proposed revisions, which included dual inclusion of protected categories in both the non-discrimination and equal opportunity sections of the policy. This duality was later removed but is now restored, and I fully believe the results of the survey maintain the representative integrity within that. And before I share the results of the survey, my question to the board is this. To date, can the division provide non-anecdotal data on a parallel survey that sought out the direct opinions of those that these revisions would directly impact? If so, we should make that known. And if not, then that means that this survey from my association is the only one that's been conducted to date on a division-wide transparent level that solicits and represents the entire summation of the professional opinions of our professional employees through their professional advocacy body. And so if that's so, my concern is that the division is once again treading closely to repeating oversights that do not foster the transparency and the trust building we have all acknowledged need to continually occur. And this is particularly true when it comes to consulting building administrators. They shoulder an incredible responsibility of acting at times as the singular hinge for the best interests of all of our students and parents and educators in the area. They are the foremost local leaders who uphold and enforce and protect the mission of the division, and yet they are not actively and openly consulted on matters which impact everyone who falls under their sphere of influence, both inside and outside of their buildings. So again, my hope is the division can produce data that shows a global transparent solicitation took place. And if not, then the data I provided to you is the only uncontested data that's available and also holds significant weight in terms of the majority desires of the wishes of the division's educators regarding the proposed revisions to the policy. So that being said, 530 responses were garnered by yesterday. 70.2% of those responses were teachers. The rest were central office, transportation, support staff, and such. Of that, 50.9% were members, 49.1% were non-members. It doesn't get more biased than that. It was a pretty much even divide between membership and non-membership. 70 comments were logged, which I'll be provided to you. I'll email you the results. But of all the results, 91.7% responded that they support the proposed revisions to Policy 4107. And I believe that clearly is evident that those whom this will impact want these revisions to be adopted and enacted through actively informed and wall-to-wall consultation with those who are going to be acting on the division's behalf in its successful implementation. So as always, if there's anything IRCA can do for you to support this moving forward, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Hi, my name is Molly Murillo, and today was my last day at Dixon Smith Middle School. I'm an NGHS student, and I'm part of the student council, and I'll be talking about Stafford's county schools for the rest of my life, because as an adult, that is the education I will have received. When I grow up, I want to be able to say good things about Stafford County. I was really excited when I thought you were considering passing School Bill Policy 2420. What I want to know is why it hasn't happened yet. It's an anti-discrimination policy. This bill is designed to protect our students. Our students are not being protected. A girl was left in the gym all by herself in the middle of an active shooter drill. Does this sound very safe to you? I'm very disappointed. How can I say good things about Stafford County knowing that this bill did not pass right away? Children in our schools are not feeling safe or included. Please make our schools safe by passing School Bill 2420 in its original form. Thank you.
All right, we have time for one more speaker. Oh, can you sign in, please, Ms. Merlo?
Good evening. My name is Tiffany Kopsak. I live on Hamlin Drive in Stafford, Virginia, and teach at Colonial Forge. I am speaking tonight, again, in full support of non-discrimination protection for teachers and students on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. As access to information grows and our communities develop deeper knowledge of what it means to be LGBTQIA, as representation normalizes and as facts supersede superstition, full integration of individuals who identify is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So every moment that our community delays in accepting these individuals is damaging to them. As it has been reinforced with every fire drill and lockdown drill, our primary duty is to keep kids safe. If we reject who they are, if we fail to protect them from ignorance, discrimination, rejection, we set ourselves up for failure and cannot fulfill our obligations as educators. We learn best through mimicry. From a very early age through adulthood, we learn to pick up the behavior of our community to better belong to our community. Kids who are LGBTQIA have an extra burden on their journey to figure out who they are and how they belong, as society rejects them out of habit, not for anything they have said or done, but for who they are. We need to have diverse educators to represent, to model, to mentor, to support, because our population is diverse. To have one cultural background, one way of living, serve as educators for all at all times is irresponsible. When they are not represented within our community, students cannot feel like they belong. That forced isolation, too, is irresponsible, as connections are the fundamental backbone of education. When we look back on Virginia's refusal to integrate, on the many counties that shut down to keep students of color isolated, when we see in our own history the choice to follow superstitious beliefs over educated reality and the abject idiocy and ignorance of those past mistakes, of that failure to fulfill our sole mission to educate, how can you consider any non-discrimination policy that doesn't protect every member of our population, teachers, staff, and students alike? A non-discrimination policy by its own terms must be inclusive. Any exclusion is intentional and meaningful and detrimental to the excluded in every moment of their existence. This policy is picking teams at recess. As written, it invites everyone to play. You leave any group out, you are leaving that kid sitting on the sidelines, unaccepted, uninvited, unprotected, a target for the ignorant. You told them they're not good enough, given fodder that little voice inside their head that tells them they don't matter. You have failed to protect them.
Does that conclude our time, Madam Clerk? One more minute. Is there anyone that,
because they have 3 minutes.
is there anyone who wants to address the board for our final minute? All right. Seeing none, we will close the public comment period and come to the board comments. Okay, we've got a long evening ahead. I'll just mention that before we start our comments. Mr. McOsker.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, as the board members know, I rarely write comments down, much to the regret of my wife, but tonight I will. And
Oh, you wrote something down.
yeah, I really did. So, Madam Chair, a rather politically timely speech tonight from me. I speak tonight to address the constituents of the George Washington District, friends and neighbors alike who placed me on the seat of the Stafford County School Board nearly 8 years ago. I will not be seeking a third term on the Stafford County School Board. After much reflection and many accomplishments tempered by the time spent away from my wife, Vanessa, and my 4 children, it's time to pass the torch. 2 hard-fought elections, many sleepless nights, and heated discussions later, unfortunately, my mind always reflects to discord and to the values and principles of elected members of this great county of Stafford. It's time to allow another to bring the George Washington District and our great school division to the next level. Let me begin by noting somewhat obvious point that these offices that we hold are not ours to hold indefinitely. We are here not simply to mark time. Sustained incumbency certainly is not the point of seeking office. And there are times when we must turn to God, family, and our loved ones as the primary reason for being. For me, now is such a time. I do this with no small measure of regret. Regret because the state of our sometimes disunion on the county and the country in politics. The regret because of the disrepair and sometimes the destructiveness of today's politics. Regret because of the indecency of discourse. Complicity in this alarming state of affairs, I feel it's time for my complicity to end. There is an undeniable potency in the populist appeal like Facebook in our business, but mischaracterizing or misunderstanding problems and the needs of the school division and giving in to the impulse to scapegoat and belittle threatens to turn us into a fearful, backward-looking board in society. I must argue for our positions fervently. I never be afraid to compromise. We must assume the best of our acquaintances and always look for the good. We must be unafraid to stand up and speak out for what is right and fair. I plan to spend the remaining 6 months of my board doing just that. I wish the best of luck to the good people of the George Washington District and the County of Stafford, and most importantly to the wonderful employees and children of the Stafford County Public School System. Madam Chair, I yield.
Thank you, Mr. McOsker. I'm glad you mentioned your next 6 months. It's actually 6.5. You're not off the hook until December 31st, okay? And we will. Hold you to it. Yes, that's right. Dr. Chase.
Well, so that's kind of funny that he wrote something this time, because I really didn't have a lot written. I was going to kind of go by the fly, so I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I just wanted to thank Miss Lanaire's class, my pen pal, who did this lovely portrait of me. She had invited all of us who were pen pals to have lunch today, and it was really wonderful getting to spend some time with one of our students. And my student was from Afghanistan, and I got to sit with him and 2 of his good friends who were also from Afghanistan, and we talked about colors and shapes and all kinds of things, and it was really wonderful. And then I just wanted to shout out to Tammy Hauk, who is retiring, but she invited us to Brook Point for the Inspire Virginia event, and at that event I grabbed a voter registration form for my son, and he voted for the first time today. So that's all I have to say tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Chase. Ms. Young.
Oh, my turn. My son voted for the first time today also. CTE, I just wanted to put a plug out there for CTE. Parents and students to participate in this Discover Your Future event. This is in an effort to serve thousands of students and community members from across Fredericksburg region. This event will span over 3 days, October the 8th, 9th, and 10th. Discover Your Future will take place at the Fredericksburg Expo Center in Central Park. This will help connect the future workforce of our community to local businesses in different ways: career exploration, career preparation, and career commitment. Let me see. I think that's it. Oh, did we attended the retirement? We the retirement, and yeah. That celebration honoring the employees for their years of service, and I thank them for that also. There was a dinner and a presentation of plaques, and special thanks to Brook Point High School. Was it a quartet, Dr. Kisner? Yeah? Okay, and so additionally, I attended Fun Day at Hampton Oaks. Yeah, I'll miss our kids, those Foxborough kids, and the kids from Woodstream that are moving from Park Ridge also. So I attended these fun activities just to visit with them. And I know they're moving back home, and some kids from Winding Creek are coming back home also. So I do want them to all enjoy their summer, and, I'll keep track of them, definitely. One of the things I wanted to mention with that is that I wanted Dr. Kisner to look into a program of English and Spanish for after school. This is something that I used to do when I lived in Lake Ridge, Woodbridge, Virginia. I used to teach the Spanish English class after school, and I think we have a couple of title schools that we could probably put that in place, be it Conway, Falmouth, Moncure, where these kids are. And I would like to follow their growth into Moncure. Kate Waller-Barrett also, yes, definitely. I think the kids belong to all of us, so I'm looking forward to helping with that, looking forward to helping our school board members with that process, since, I have that little background. I could help out in that Spanish or any other language that you all
Yo
want.
también.
Yo también, sí, cómo no. So I'm willing to help out there if I need to. So I will wait for my comment, but I wanted to mention it anyway. I will do it right now. I know some people came down and they talked about LGBTQ, and we will talk about the policies later, but I just do want to mention, since it's my time, we broke out the two policies. I did ask for them to be separate from student and staff, so I thank you for listening to that request. Acceptance of all staff and students is paramount. Being a woman, being a minority, and having gay children, I know I raised them in one way, and I can tell you that this is not something that they aspire to be. All mothers and fathers, they love their children for who they are in their heart. And this is not a political issue. This is not a Christian issue. This is a moral issue, okay? So I do hope that after we, vote on this policy, that we give Dr. Kisner the time to work on the plan and train our staff, and do hope soon that we could get a clear policy to protect also our Black and brown and disadvantaged kids, because I know these activists and folks that are doing things, they're doing very well. And I'm afraid that there's something that's so obvious in front of us, implicit bias. It's subtle. So I hope we work on that.
Thank you. Ms. Decatur.
Here I was thinking I was the only one up here crying today. So, Mr. McOsker, that was the most eloquent speech I've ever heard you give up here. Mine this evening?
Get another one.
Mine this evening, not so much. I didn't prepare anything. I was going to mention something along the same lines. And I'll just say it. So the first time I ran, it was a special election. I had to get my signatures. Some of you may know that you have to get, and you may not know, you have to get 125 signatures of registered voters within your constituency in order to be on the ballot. That's how it works. The first time I ran was a special election, so all of my signatures were due in August, and I just thought that that's when signatures were due, until a really good friend of mine that might happen to be here tonight texted me on Friday morning and said, "You're running, right? Do you have your signatures?" And I'm like, "Signatures? I'm waiting until after, all of this stuff is done and graduation, and then I'm going to casually go get them." And she was like, "No, they're due Tuesday at 7, like this Tuesday, like 2 hours ago." So if you saw me yawning during all of those presentations, it's not because any of them were boring or that I didn't like any of them. It's because we had company on Friday and Saturday, so Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, I walked around getting 125 signatures of registered voters. And that might sound very easy, but as someone who doesn't answer her door when people knock on it, it's not that easy. So anyways, the point of the story is that as of this evening, I did submit my petitions, and they were approved, and I will be running to serve the Griffiths-Widewater District again. We did carefully consider it because we do have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old, and this job was way bigger than I ever anticipated it being. But the fact of the matter is, while it's challenging and it's sometimes incredibly frustrating, my job here, I don't feel is done yet. But, you know, if it does happen to be, I just hope that I get an award for crying the most up here. So, anyways, I don't really have anything else important to say right now, but I do. I love this time of year because we get to hear all of the awards, and all throughout the year, it's, you know, it's the hustle and bustle of the budget and the redistricting and the disagreeing and coming to, you know, consensus. And so when we get to do these awards, we get to hear the amazing things that are taking place in our schools all throughout the years, while we're up here doing the stuff that we'd rather be in the schools doing the cool things that we got to celebrate today. So I just love the this time of year when we get to celebrate all the awards and the amazing things. So congratulations to all of you who are receiving awards, and even those of you who aren't, and you're just doing the mundane. You're making the, you know, you're the lifeblood of these schools. So anyways, I'm not yielding any time. I've talked enough. Thanks, guys.
Ms. Hazard?
I'll just say, it was great starting off June 1st. We started off with the graduation at the Phoenix Center, which is such a wonderful way. And then, of course, this Saturday, we will be celebrating at 5 of our high schools our graduations. So any of you, most of you, since you're here, are involved in the schools. I remember learning my first year going to a soccer game that there is nowhere you can get in Stafford County between about 8:30 in the morning until about noon, especially where I live, because I have to pass some school to get anywhere. So anyway, but it is such a marvelous. And I know that everybody who has been doing the anti-rain dance, keep going, because we, you know, no, I'm not going to say anything, don't want to spoil it, but we're hoping for certainly a beautiful day. I'd like to say congratulations to this class of 2019. I have watched many of you grow up from little kids, and it's great to watch you all. As Dr. Chase said, it was wonderful to meet with our pen pals. I'm looking at probably the class of, and I won't even predict which one they are, but it's just such a great time of year to see success. And success is measured very differently for every person. And so to the parents who have been there pushing their kids, to the parents, for all of you who are involved, for all of the teachers who have grabbed, pulled, and, you know, some of those kids to make sure that they get there, thank you. Because the investment we're making here is the one that's going to have the longest term in our world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hazard. I want to thank our advisory committees who were with us this evening, giving us their reports, and I look forward to further analysis and discussion of those reports with the board and perhaps with the committees as well. This is also my favorite time of year. I'll never forget my first graduation, sitting on that stage and hearing that music and having all the students come up. It's the best part of this job, is for me. Well, the hot sun, yeah, well, you know, you just have to wear your sunglasses and just deal with it. It is, it's amazing to see our students moving along to that next phase in their lives. And they certainly couldn't do it without our amazing staff, our teachers, and all the support staff that we have in Stafford County Public Schools, as well as our families and our community. It's not just, you know, that people are supporting their child, they're supporting, you know, all the children. And I think we saw that this evening with, you know, the speakers coming out here speaking, you know, really on behalf of not just their children, but children from all over. And I do have to say, about maybe 18 years ago when I had first come on the board, I became a FEW. And for those of you who don't know, and I don't know if it's still around, but it's called a Friend of the Eagle Wrestlers. And we had some pretty hard times. Actually, it was the year of 9/11, and there was a real controversy, and there was a big split on the board. And I learned a lot about wrestling, and it's not just a sport. There's a lot of mental work that goes into that, and the growth and everything. So I particularly appreciate the speakers this evening, because I know it takes a lot of guts to come up here particularly for a student, to come up here and speak. So thank you for speaking out, and regardless of what happens in there, your voices are heard, and on the other issues as well. So thank you. Dr. Kisner, we'll bring it over to you, and perhaps if the board wants to take a 5-minute break after your comments, because we've got 17 information items in addition to a couple action items, and it's going to be a record meeting.
All right, thank you. First, I want to thank the Sheriff Department. Today was the 5th grade deer celebration, and I never experienced something like I experienced today. It was amazing. You had not only the Sheriff Department, you had the Boy Scouts, you had the military, you had a lot of parents, great staff, kids were great. So it was a fun day. I do also want to thank the teachers and all the staff. I guess I'm not graduating, but I'm finishing my first year. And I kept to a commitment that I shared with the board during my interview. A day has not gone by where I have not visited a classroom, a school, or a school activity. And I leave, if you follow me on Twitter, you hear me say this, or you read, that every day I'm more amazed than the day before. This is a great school system. We have great staff and terrific children. So I want to publicly thank the board for having trust and confidence in my leadership. And I think the best is yet to come. So thank you.
All right, so it's 9:05. Is there an interest in taking a break? I mean, it's really up to the board. I can keep going. We got a yes. How long? That we will 5 minutes. 5 minutes. We will absolutely start at 9:10, assuming there's 4 of us back here. Thank you.
I don't think anybody needs this.
Dr. Kisner.
Transportation actually was using those for
bring this meeting back to order. We are now on information items. Mr. McOsker had to leave us.
2 action items.
Oh, 2 action, oh, yeah, well. All right, appointment of school board members to serve on the board standing committees. You know, these appointments have to be effective before July 1st. Do we want to wait to do these when everybody's here and put them on the next meeting? Would that be a problem, Ms. Hall?
Is that the case for the 3?
Unless you know who wants to be on them. It doesn't really matter to me, but I don't think we want to have an extended discussion right now.
Okay.
I thought the first 3 had to be done.
Before July 1st.
July 1st? Okay, then, yeah.
All right, but we can go ahead. All right, we've got, but there's only
Yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4, there's
we're
only
missing
5
2
of us
members,
here.
yeah.
So do you want to, is any problem with deferring that? I haven't heard from any. Just let me know which committees you want to be on. I have no burning desire for any of them. I guess I could fill in if nobody else will do it. So let's put that on for action again next time. Then endorsement of the Board of Supervisors resolution regarding the formation of a new school site selection and acquisition team for the school division and county. Has everyone had a chance to review this? This is just something that the supervisors has proposed, and they've asked us to endorse it.
Motion to, oh, sorry.
10.02.
Motion
All right,
to
I'll take a
approve.
motion, Ms. Hazard.
Motion to
To endorse.
endorse, excuse
Okay.
me. I would prefer endorse.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Hazard, second by Dr. Chase. Any discussion?
Just a quick one. I think endorsement is the right way for our board to go because I think this is going to be an influx process, but I do think some of the information shared on a variety of levels is that we can't just be focusing on one thing. We need to be looking globally, broadly, with all the tools that the county could use. And, you know, the best example I have is when you think of Prince William County and Fairfax, they built those parkways at a time when, like, people are like, why would you build a parkway to get across there? Well, now I don't know how you would get across there. So I hope that Stafford begins to kind of think that way as well. So that's why I'm endorsing.
All right, so motion to endorse. Any further discussion? Dr. Chase.
Yeah, I just wanted to just make sure we have 3 members from the school side on this committee. I just don't want to be presented with, asked to vote on where a school is going to be located without having actually been presented with the information and a rationale beforehand. So I anticipate that it will be, but I'm just, if that were to happen, I would probably have to not support it because I didn't know what the heck was going on. So I just want to make sure that the board is kept apprised of what's happening in this committee.
So I also wanted to mention that the individuals that are on this selection acquisition team, are they employees or is there someone from the community? They're just our employees, not community, nobody from the community. Is this just internal? So I'm wondering if there should be some kind of someone else. I mean, not necessarily a school board member, but somebody else than just members that are working in our environment, because I don't want any, like, oh yeah, this is a nice place, because I want to make sure that where the school is going to go is because that's where it needs to be, not because, yeah, you know what I mean.
My only concern about bringing in outsiders is because it's going to be negotiations and people seeing what kind of land. And we did have a member on the CIP joint committee, which I thought was a great idea at that point, but it was not for negotiating. As I said at the last meeting, my main concern is these are high-level people. I hope they meet. That's my biggest concern, but I've expressed that to Dr. Kisner, is I'm afraid it will take 2 years, and I think we're behind.
I do want to make sure that we have an opportunity to make a comment or a recommendation also after the fact of the decision, not that the decision is going to be made and it comes to us and we're like, oh, that's where it is. I mean, I want measures. I want to make sure that that's where it needs to be.
What we'll do is every time we meet, we'll make sure we have on the agenda.
Okay.
What was discussed.
Fair.
And then forward you the agenda, what will be discussed, so you'll have a heads up.
Fair. Thank you.
Okay, and what we're endorsing is the creation of the team.
Yeah.
So
I'm
if we
looking
have
ahead.
If we have any
Yeah.
Right, but if we want to make any suggestions, we can make them.
Good.
But keep in mind, this is not our
True.
committee.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, so are we ready to vote? All in favor of endorsing this formation of this new school site selection and acquisition team for the school division of the county, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we have quite a few information items. Information items 1101 and 1102, we've been requested to move to action this evening, and that's because of timing and the end of the year. And this is not a reflection on the staff, it's that the information was not available to bring this to us earlier. So 1101, let me just read it officially, I'll read fast. Award of a contract to Allied Instructional Services in the amount of $230,000 from FY20 budgeted operating funds for 1 full-time teacher for orientation and mobility students and 2 full-time teachers for vision impaired students. Dr. Chase?
Yeah, I move that we move 1101 from information to action.
Second. All right, we have a
Yeah.
motion by Dr.
And-
Chase, second by Ms. Decatur. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, we have
And then,
another motion.
yeah, and then I move that we approve item 1101, award of contract to Allied Instructional Services, et cetera.
Second, I have a question, though.
Well, technically, the number may change, but we approve that as an action item.
Okay, 1001,
All right,
whatever it is. Yeah.
or 10, it'll be 10:02.
1002.
10:02. It's just getting close to the time.
So
All right,
did we went from
discussion.
1101 to?
Don't worry,
11
it's the
okay.
same thing, it's just the
Okay.
numbering, it moves.
I just wanted to ask, did we verify the rider contract? Were we able to get that verified? Okay. All right.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 1102 is also an item that we've been asked to move to action tonight. That's the award of a construction contract to Dominion Energy for $108,937.13 using Virginia Public School Authority funds for the installation of site lighting in support of the rebuild Annie Moncure Elementary School project. Ms. Decatur, do you have a motion?
I move to move 11.02 to action.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, motion by
Okay.
Mr. Decatur.
I have a question. Or-
Second by Dr. Chase. All right, discussion. Now, this
no,
is
all
just
in
Well,
waiver.
We have to have
motion
a
and
motion,
then,
yeah.
just-
Okay.
so I move to approve the award of the construction
All right,
contract.
we
Wait, we first
got
have
to
to
vote
vote
on
to
the first
move.
one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So-
I thought we had to then.
Well,
I'm ready. Let's go.
all right, let's move. All in favor of moving 1102 to action, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Ms. Decatur,
I
motion.
motion to approve the award of a construction contract to Dominion Energy
Second.
for the
Motion
installation
by
of
Ms.
site
Decatur,
lighting.
second by Ms. Young. All right, now we can have discussion on this.
I was going to ask to move it because I thought maybe it was a time-sensitive thing. That was the question I was going to ask, but, so it doesn't really matter what my comment was with the estimate because one said 90 days and the other one said 120, so I just wanted to make sure that y'all were good on timing, but since we're moving it forward, I think that you're all going to be fine with it, right? Okay.
All right,
I have a question as well.
Ms. Hazard.
Is this lighting associated with the road, or is it on-site?
Says site.
I know, I just was curious, since we very rarely pay for roads to schools, but this, we are. I just wanted to see if we were also paying for the lighting, so, thank you.
All right, no further discussion. All in favor of approving
Aye.
10.03 now? Please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. All right, so the rest of these are for information, and until we get to the end, I think they'll be pretty non-controversial or not require much discussion. So I would ask, unless you have a burning question for this evening, send your questions to Dr. Kisner, and
I
then,
have a question for 1105.
okay, well, we're only on 1103.
Okay.
All right, so 1103, appointment of school board members to serve on the school board's advisory committees for the 2019-2020 school year. We'll be making those appointments at the next meeting, so if anyone wants to switch committees or take on additional ones, be prepared to tell us.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely, yeah.
1104, appointment of voting delegate and alternate voting delegate for the Virginia School Boards Association Delegate Assembly at the 2019 VSBA Annual Convention. This is usually a draft rather than a volunteer. So if anybody wants to volunteer, okay, well, Miss Young's volunteering.
Did you do
We'll
it,
put that
Holly?
down.
You did it last year? Okay.
All right,
It's mostly the legislative stuff. so.
Okay.
okay.
Do you want to do it again, or do you want to pass it
Well,
on?
we'll need an alternate, so
Alternate, do you want to be alternate with me?
We can talk about it
we'll
next
talk
time. It's
about
just
it next, we'll talk about it next time.
Okay.
All right. 1105, adoption of resolution to make technical adjustments to the FY20 school board adopted budget. All right,
Have
so
a-
that'll come back to us at the next meeting. Ms.
Yeah,
Hazard,
I
did you
just
have
have a
any
comment.
comment?
Go ahead, Ms. Young, you finish.
Okay.
I have a question on this one.
I have a question too, so if you want to do yours first.
I was really just curious what the decreased shared service payment, was it regarding the private day school funding or the one FTE for the finance department? I just wanted to know what it was.
So my question was the same, so you could answer the same one. What does the decrease affect? And, yeah, that was my question. So the school board of that 126,000 of total school board expenditure, so both of which reflect the decrease of that 78,000. So what are you going to do, and what was it for, that 78? That was my question. And how are you going to get it?
Sure. The $78,000 was actually procurement staff that was on the local government side.
Okay.
And so, they allocate the cost to us for a portion of that. And since they eliminated that position in the budget, the transfer to us got decreased, and then what was going back to them decreased.
Okay,
So it's a net impact of 0 to our budget.
okay.
All right, so that'll be back. If there's no issues, we'll just put that on consent. We won't have so many action items. I think it doesn't sound controversial. 1106, award of a service contract to Train USA, Inc. in the amount of $114,934 using budgeted FY19 and FY20 operating funds in support of the division's HVAC chiller maintenance plan. Right.
Chill 'em.
Chiller. Those chillers are expensive. I personally question that low amount for all those chillers, because isn't this all of them? I'm sure there will be more to come. 1107, review of year-end infrastructure projects priority listing.
I had just a quick
Hazard.
question. Was the state revenue increased due to higher ADM or something specific? I mean, I'm glad it went up, so please know, I'm happy to see it go in that direction, or maybe it was miscellaneous, but I just was curious.
The main increase is actually related to the regional special ed program that we're adding as part of this. Yeah. Actually, some of the items, it was a net increase, but some items went down and some went up, but that was the large increase.
Approximate year-end savings? I know we're not going tonight, I'm just curious, and it must be in there, and I must have missed it for some reason.
Yeah, and it might not have an exact amount, so we're still working on it. I'm expecting in the 1 to 1.5% of our operating budget range, which puts us pretty even with the prior years. Last year, we were short on state revenue because of the way the state was shifting some of their payments. This year, that nets out to 0. So as I hinted in the, or directly stated in the board agenda item, our state revenue actually went up a little bit. So revenue, I'm fairly comfortable on. So now it's just ironing out the expenditures. As we get closer to the end of the year, obviously, we'll have a better idea, but I'm fairly confident right now with our biggest savings that we always generate are on the payroll side, because of vacancies and salary lapse, and that's where it's going to generate the most savings.
So we're talking $1 million?
Well, so overall savings in the budget would be probably around 3.5.
Right.
But, obviously, we're not going to cut it, we're not going to try to spend $3.5 million. So there's going to be some carryover we have to, budget for unexpected changes at the end of the year for salary. We, leave payouts is another item that as those start to come in with resignations and retirements.
It was just to get sort of some ballpark, what we were talking
Yeah.
of, how many projects
Sure.
might be able, that's all I was trying to get an idea.
Yeah, and you understand what he said. That's 1%, which is pretty close budget.
very close.
Yeah.
All right, you can maybe sit close by, Mr. Fulmer.
Staying close, yes, ma'am.
1108, approval of a payment in the amount of $744,924 from budgeted FY20 operating funds to VML insurance programs for FY20 property and liability coverage. Any questions about this you can send in, unless they're burning this evening. Seeing none, we'll move on to 1109, approval of a plan to compensate secondary classroom teachers who have more than 150 students and secondary physical education and music teachers who have more than 200 students. Now, this is in accordance with the state law, correct? Okay, Dr. Chase, you have a question?
Yeah, so my question was just how did you all, what metric did you end up coming up with for deciding whether a teacher had 150 to 169? Was it the September 30th date? Was it an average week? What number did you use to figure out which 91, 19, teachers?
Yes, ma'am. So we took a weekly count. So we actually took every week of school up through May 30th, took their total student count, and then took an average of that because it's going to fluctuate up or down, a student here or there each week. So we took that weekly average, and anybody that exceeded that, hit that 150 mark and above is who we included in this.
Wow, that was a lot of work.
It is. It has taken several months, so a group effort,
Every
a group
week?
effort with technology was a huge help. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every week, wow. But it's very fair, so thank you for going
Thank
to
you.
that level. Now, these payments won't be made until, they'll be distributed on August 1st, so that's why we're not pushing this one up
Yep.
this evening. Award of a delivery order to Sunny Merriman, Inc. in the amount of $559,955 using budgeted FY19 annual operating funds for the procurement of 5 special needs school buses. And it's my understanding that every one of these will have air conditioning, correct? Okay.
Are we allocating these buses to the little people, the littlest people first?
Well, these are replacing existing buses, so our highest need was on the special need buses. So those special need buses will be used accordingly. I'll let Mr. Sudduth answer in the future if you still have that question. But
So these are replacement, not additional.
yes, ma'am, replacement.
Okay. I'll keep it to myself.
Okay.
You all know what I was going to say? We know.
But we still have 11 for next year, right?
Nine for next year.
Are
Yeah.
they replacement?
They are replacement.
Yes, they are.
Well, on the positive
So we're
side, Ms.
gonna-
Hazard, at least we're getting some new ones.
So for those
Get that information
replacements,
in addition
I'm
to-
hoping that they're going for the longer rides and for the little people.
Yeah, I'm sure Mr. Sudduth will allocate those to the most efficient routes and.
I'm just putting my plug in right now, so,
Yeah,
Everybody knew where I was going.
yeah,
thank you.
thank
Sorry,
you.
Chris.
No, you're fine.
Well, you knew it would come.
All right, are we ready to move on to 11.11? Approval of payment in the amount of $133,142.62 to Tyler Technologies, Inc., using FY20 budgeted operating funds for annual maintenance, hardware, and support costs for transportation fleet services. 11.12, approval of the purchase of Halton Mifflin Harcourts, Reed 180 Universal for secondary literacy, and the amount of $281,800 from budgeted FY20 operating funds. Anybody just pop in there if you want to ask something. Otherwise, I'll keep rolling. 11.13, approval of the purchase of Star Reading Assessment in the amount of $107,437.29 from budgeted FY20 operating funds. 11.14, approval of a contract with College Board in the amount of $110,496 using budgeted FY20 operating funds for the administration of the PSAT 8/9, grades 8-9, and PSAT NMSQT. Right,
So-
scholarship qualifying test.
Yeah, I
Which,
was-
which we all know we had, was 2?
We also had some
At
commended
North.
scholars, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was amazing this year, and that's grades 10 and 11.
I was getting ready to
At North.
slow you down for a minute.
At North.
So
I was there for their award ceremony.
I am very happy to know that all students are getting this free. There's no payment in, so thank you so very much for making that happen.
All right. we'll make it happen when we approve it at the next meeting.
We're going to approve it.
11, I assume so. 11.15, approval of an application for 2019-2020 funding under the Every Student Succeeds Act, Consolidated Titles 1, 2, 3, and 4, Parts A.
Common question here. So for 1115, the measurable objective 7, that by June 2020, there'll be a 5% increase in participation. Are you okay? Okay. In AP and IB coursework and tests compared to 2017-2018 for the underrepresented and economically challenged student populations. So it says here that this will be achieved through improved stakeholders' awareness and by providing funding in underwriting. So how are we planning on measure that? When I looked at Measure 3 has a plan, but Measure 7 doesn't.
I am not sure if it's worded right, but yes, we're going to be looking at the numbers of students that were taking the test before versus how many more students are taking it now.
No, this one is saying that you are going to get money from stakeholders.
I don't think it's saying that.
This will be achieved through improved stakeholder awareness and by providing funding and underwriting. So how are you planning on getting that funding then?
We're going to fund it.
A grant?
Yes. The grant comes out, yes, the
Okay, so
stakeholder
that's what I
aware-
was saying. There needs to be something in here. Some of them have plans, but this one didn't. So that's why I was wondering if that's the plan to get a grant. It should say so, that's all.
Yeah, no, sorry, we do have the grant already.
Okay, perfect.
It's going to be approved by you guys and by the state, but they've already given us permission to do that.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, that's all.
All right, well, as long as we're discussing this item, this is something that we can, get back to at the next meeting. But I was curious that we are saying that our goal is to increase participation in the coursework, that's positive, and tests. But there's nothing here about the passing rate on the test. So our goal is to get more to take the course and to take the test, but we don't have a goal as to how many will be passing the test. Is that an intentional
It's
omission?
intentional because what we're doing here is getting the money to pay for the test. We are working a lot, and the Office of Accountability is working together to measure how the students do on the test. We're not giving up on that. It's just for procuring the money for them to approve it. It's under Title IV. It's very specific that it has to be for increased in certain things.
Correct.
And
It's
that's
for the
why it's worded that way.
Right, and my question is not, great goal, increase participation, but why not have a goal as to passing it as well?
Yeah,
That's-
I-
no,
I-
that's
I
our
think- I
internal
think-
goal.
I
That's
think
our
we-
internal
I think
goal,
we
but not-
absolutely could and should, not through the title application, but through our own division-wide goals. We should absolutely, I definitely agree, just to say access, but we want to see access and proficiency. So, yeah, and I'll present you once we get this year's results, so,
Yeah, but we are looking at that, Dr.
Yeah.
Kistner.
In
We
a
are
different-
looking at
Okay.
Yeah.
Just,
pass rates. It's
Of
just, we
course.
cannot put it in there.
we don't want to just sign them up and have them take the test. We
Absolutely
want them to actually pass the test and show that they've actually, gained something
Yeah.
from the course, right, Dr. Stripes?
This
You
this
shake
is
your
the
head.
beginning, so
Yes.
one step at a time, and this is the beginning. So I'm happy that
Yes.
we're serving this population. So this is great. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, all right.
Perfect.
Yeah, there's nothing that we're doing in here that doesn't impact the academics of the students at the end. And we're working very closely with law to make sure that we do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, okay, our speed part is over. We're on to the two items that we want to have Dr. Kisner give us some background on. And we will be bringing these back at the next meeting.
okay, thank you. Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's read both of them. I mean, we'll, officially, we do them separately, but since they're on for information, and I think I don't want you to just limit the discussion to one if it's going to intertwine with the other. So we're going to be discussing now items 11.16, approval of proposed revisions to policy 4107, human resources services, non-discrimination, equal employment opportunity, anti-retaliation, and 11.17, approval of proposed new policy 2420, student services, non-discrimination, equal educational opportunity. If you want to do them separately, if there's any overlap, whatever works best for you.
Okay, so I'm actually going to, okay, so let's just quick background from 2 weeks ago. The board asked us to separate it out, so that's why it looks different than 2 weeks ago. But the language is in, 2 weeks ago, language is in it, but it's in two different sections. And then I'm going to now ask Lisa, because she, in my opinion, did an exceptional job of organizing this, and she would be the one that would give you the best information.
Ms. Boatright.
So, as Dr. Kisner said, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Kisner, these two policies, one is an amendment as 4107. It's an existing policy, and most of the language that is in there is in our current policy, with the exception of the addition of the sexual orientation and the gender identity. We have language in the equal opportunity sections, and that is required under several federal laws, as is the non-discrimination statement. So there are a number of federal laws that do require that any entity that receives federal funding set forth a non-discrimination statement. Just briefly, those are Title VI, Title IX, Section 504 of the Rehab Act, the Age Discrimination Act, Title II of the ADA. All of those require that we have certain language that is in our non-discrimination statement. Then there is the addition of a new policy at the request of the board to separate them, which is 2420, which basically deals with our students and our learning environment. So there you'll find that the non-discrimination statement exactly mirrors that's in the 4107 for employees. And that's because if the school division is going to have a non-discrimination statement, it should be something that is applicable to both employees and to students and to the general public. Also, in 2420, we have an equal opportunity statement that applies to our students. That too mirrors the same one that applies to our employees. But it makes it very clear that we have something for our employees and something for our students as well.
Thank you, Lisa, for
Are there any
separating those
questions?
two. Appreciate it.
One other thing, I'm sorry, is that I think at the last board meeting, there was a suggestion that the board should participate in any type of evaluation and review. So there is an additional sentence in that section under both of them that the superintendent shall present to the board any plan for reviewing these for their input and review.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for separating those two policies. I appreciate that. I read them over and I'm content. Hopefully I could get through whatever it is I'm planning on saying today without shedding another tear, so I'll just be quiet.
Anybody else?
Sure, why not?
Ms. Hazard, no crying.
No.
The night is young.
Is there other additional things missing? Because I would make additional statements in our policy, because having sat and read now, I won't even tell you how many policies. I have read some EEOC policies from places that are just amazing, and I would love to have a real discussion with this board. I'm not going to read them all to you. Dell's, if anybody hasn't read Dell's, you should read it. It's amazing. Under Armour. I mean, these are some amazing, punchy, and I mean it in a good sense of what we value. My concern, and it sort of goes to things that Dr. Kisner said about the policies, I would like to have an anti-discrimination statement, as we said. I would love to approve that, and then get into these policies, because when I pulled up the VSBA thing on the EEOC, they go for pages with our how do you do it, and it's all the process, which we don't even have in our regulations of the compliance officer. And I know we're working on some of that, but I would like our policies to reflect that. So if you all want any suggestions. And I know this isn't free, but, or do you not? I mean.
No, I just want to reiterate what I said 2 weeks ago. We believe if the board would adopt this, this is the beginning of what you are saying, a pathway to begin to elaborate more of the regulatory, which is the implementation of these policies. But this is, from our research, looking at other school divisions, often they would start with this and then expand into more specifics. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but.
Well, I looked at Fairfax, I looked at some of them, and they had a statement, and their statement is on the front of their website, well, not on the front, you have to kind of get there, and it's their statement, and it's sort of not their policy, it's their statement, and I love the statement.
Exactly, so those are two different things.
Right.
So, and you're talking about Dell's. Dell's is really amazing. Dell's is a big statement, and it basically talks about what they believe. So I have seen that one, but like Fairfax and the other school divisions, they have their statements, but it's separate from their policies.
Correct.
And as Dr. Kisner said, we're trying to start with the policies and then kind of.
And for me, I would rather, I just look at the glass a different way. I'd like to say the statement, here's what we believe, and here's now how we're going to.
So let me ask you a question. If you had the statement.
Can we have Ms. Hazard finish first, and then we'll come right back to you? I know it's getting late, but.
Just some additional things I'd like the board to think about. Ancestry and national origin, I did a little bit of look, I didn't go very deep. Ancestry seems to be one that has been added. Religion or belief is another one that I had looked at. Physical or mental disability instead of just disability, I'm not sure, maybe that opens up bad things, but that spoke to me, I will say. Like I said, membership in an employee or student organization, but I really think we should put or any other basis protected by federal, state, or local law, so that we are broad, not to say that every time that something else comes forward, we shouldn't amend, but don't we want to say what is protected is protected? So those are just some thoughts. I have a start on a statement, but that's, I know that I am in the minority on that the statement, but the statement to me is the important thing. And then the policies, the EEOC, when I looked on the stuff with the VSBA, I thought, my goodness, we have a lot of great work we can do in this to implement it, but I like to, you know how my brain thinks, Ms. Boatwright, you've known me long enough. But I have something I can either circulate. But those are just some additional areas I'd like us to consider, because I think we need to be looking at this policy very, very broadly. And one of the areas that has come from comments in the division is some issues with disability. And so I'm just bringing that based on comments I've had. It may not be the right language, but that just kind of spoke to me as special and mental or physical. So just wanted to raise it. I'm sure it opens a far bigger can of worms, but I wanted to look broadly because I think this is our opportunity to really say it.
So the ADA sets forth a fairly broad definition of a disability, and it does include physical and mental impairments under the ADA, as long as it also fits some of the other pieces of that definition, like it fundamentally or substantially alters some type of physical activity or major life activity.
From my perspective, as I had understood the law, sex also includes some of the additional ones we're bringing. So I'm just saying, for me, I would not mind broadening it because this is our statement. So like I said, it's just my own thoughts, but I felt like I had to throw it out there. So thank you for hearing me.
And just as another piece of information, somebody had asked, I think a couple of weeks ago, about pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical condition.
I didn't know why we were singling it out.
Sure.
That was
So,
why I
well,
asked about it.
That's a really good question. The Pregnancy Discrimination Act amended Title VII, and that's why that's in there. It was its own act that dealt with these particular issues, and so it amended Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. So that's
So
why
it's no
in there.
longer covered under just a general disability? Just a question. I mean, it's been a long time since I worked at the Office for Civil Rights, but when I did, that was considered that was considered a disability and therefore covered under the federal law.
Pregnancy in and of itself typically is considered something temporary, but you can have a medical condition stemming from pregnancy that could be covered as a disability.
So pregnancy is not a disability? No longer?
It's not in and of
No.
itself.
So
but-
that was the
but-
argument
But
we had
potential.
last time.
No, I'm just curious because, like I said, it's been a long time since I was working in the Office for Civil Rights, so, and the laws have changed.
So,
Thank you
Lisa.
for getting that information to us.
Thank you. So, Lisa, since you are the one that's been developing this, is there anything that you feel that in your readings and work that we need to put in here today? Is it missing? Can we pass this next time and then we could amend later on? Like right now, we're covering what needs to be covered, correct?
We are absolutely covering the basic minimums that's required by law. And I can single those out for you. Race, color, national origin, religion, sex, pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions, disability, age, and genetic information.
Okay.
Marital status is in there. This is a funny little thing about that. The Virginia Human Rights Act, that's our state law, covers employers that are more than 5 employees but less than 15. And that's because the federal law starts at 15 or more employers, and that's Title VII. So you have Virginia state law that covers marital status, but the federal law is not in there. So just to be clear, so it would be a little weird, I think, for a school division or any other employer in the state of Virginia over 15 employees not to cover marital status.
Okay.
So that's why that's in there, to be totally transparent.
And like I said before, my comment is that we need to have this policy in place so that Dr. Kisner could start working on training the staff. That's most important to me. The policy, passing the policy should not be an issue. Is what we do after that, what we implement in the different schools and how we end up treating these children.
Dr. Chase?
Yeah. So I had one question, which was in 4107, we've kept this sentence about demeaning or otherwise harmful actions are prohibited, but that's not in 2420. And so I just wondered whether that was a typo or if there was some motivation for removing the demeaning or otherwise harmful actions are prohibited.
There was some discussion that was, this was in conjunction in 2420 with some other language. That certainly we can add that sentence in, but it was
We think it's,
removed.
okay. I mean, for me,
But it'll be fine,
Yeah,
I mean, to add it in and make it
Sure. I
mirror
mean,
each other.
For me, a big part of this is making sure that people aren't bullied and sometimes demeaning and harmful happens to students as well as employees. So I would want to make sure that we're stating that in both policies. And then these are just some sort of general comments from reactions to some of what has been said during the public comment. I just want to say I understand people's frustration with the time that this is taking to get through, but they say measure twice, cut once, and so I really do feel that all the board members have brought important comments and things for all of us to think about to try to make this policy a better policy, and I would really appreciate it if Ms. Hazard would share with me what she has found in the next day or two, because we would like to not delay longer than necessary. And then there was a comment about whether or not principals had been consulted or administrators had been consulted. And I sort of rely on Dr. Kisner to get back to us about his administrators and whether or not they've been consulted. And I assume he's relying on staff rather than us as individual board members to be hearing from that. So I'm assuming that Dr. Kisner has been in touch with administrators, and if there's a problem, that would be good to know about. But that's all I have. Thanks.
I just have a technical question. I'm looking at the end of the first full paragraph on the first page.
On
It says
4107?
employment decisions are based, blah, blah, blah.
You on 4107?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I can just read it because I can ask my question. Employment decisions are based on merit and the ability to perform the essential functions of the job, comma, with or without reasonable accommodation. Now, my reading of that is with reasonable accommodation, as needed, whether you need reasonable accommodation or don't need reasonable. Is that a correct reading? Because it's with or without.
So it is directly from the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Well, yeah, but,
I
mean,
know.
we take it from, if the law is ambiguous or confusing, we don't necessarily have to, mimic it. But to me, it's not real clear to say with or without reasonable accommodation. It seems to me that if we're saying if someone needs reasonable accommodation as necessary. Is that the intent, or is it with reasonable accommodation or without it?
Well, if you say that, are you then saying that we provide the accommodation, or they?
I mean, the law says we
And
provide the accommodation.
perhaps that's why it's worded the way it's worded.
Yeah, I just didn't know, and it is late, but this with or without, to perform the essential, with or with, I don't know.
You have,
I'll take your answer, it's the law, so we'll just do it.
okay.
It seems a little ambiguous to me. All right. Anything else? No? All right. Any questions on? Yes.
I just saw something. So 2420, and I read through this, and I didn't catch this unless I'm looking at the wrong one. But under the student services one, non-discrimination in that little bracket right there, you says here, educational programs, admission to such programs, activities, and employment. Are you supposed to take that off?
Interns who are students.
Well, we hire like some students work for
But if
us.
they're interns or students, then they fall under the employment one.
Maybe not. They may be unpaid intern, I mean,
So employment is part of that Title IX statement, and so you have to include that because it is covered under Title IX, which applies to students, the public, and employees. So it's one of those all-encompassing ones. I can give an example. It's kind of like why we have educational interpreters or sign language interpreters at graduations. That's how it applies to the public.
No,
So the non-discrimination statement needs to be the same and include this part.
No, I'm fine. I just
Okay.
thought, what I don't want is for this to come back next time and for somebody to make a comment to that. And, yeah, so I just want to make sure.
Sure.
Look at everything.
Nope, that was a really good question. And it also applies Title IX to admission to programs, and that's why it says that. So that part we can't change.
Got it.
Thank you.
the plan that the.
I'm not dismissing you, I'm just saying thank you, that's all.
All right, just the last line on 2420, it says, "Such plan shall be shared with the board for input and review." Is that just a general, first time or annually, or it's on some regular basis? Is there
Okay,
any
so
intent there?
at the last meeting, I think it was Ms. Hazard, said that the board should be more involved in, I wasn't really sure what that really meant. I think you're really talking about the regulation component of the policy, but I'll let Holly speak for herself, because you are my neighbor, so. So Lisa captured what the comments sitting there, so maybe you could elaborate what you meant. Do you remember saying it?
No. I'm sorry,
It's really late.
Let us flush.
I
the-
think,
Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
as long as, in my opinion, as long as stuff comes back on the implementation of this, I still think we have some policy work to do, to be honest. I think this is the statement, the policies, the regulations, I think there's a lot moving there. And if they are going to be in policy and regulation, then it has to come back to the board. And I think that's something that the board needs to be very involved in. And as I said last time, I just want to make sure we remain involved, and it may not be review. Now, in 5 years, it may be review, but I think personally, having reviewed in just a overall, there's a lot we need to do, so.
Mr. Cater.
I don't know if that made any sense, I'm sorry, it's been a long day.
Is there any rule or policy or law that states how often we may or may not update a policy?
It has to be at least every 5 years, at least.
Well, that's our
What if
our
we
internal.
updated it right now and wanted to update it again in 6 months?
Yeah, you could do
Yeah,
that.
you can do that.
And that's our rule, so that could always be changed.
You can, I have a question. You can add and subtract?
You can do anything you want,
No, I think.
as long as it comes twice for
I think she's,
information.
I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, but are you talking
Let
about
me say-
subtraction as in?
once.
Let me say this respectfully. I'm going to say something that hopefully comes out the right way, it usually doesn't. We can analyze this thing to forever, to paralysis. I mean, Lisa, with her legal background, is providing us, or you, the background, the foundation. We always have to go, what Jamie said, to amend it if necessary. But I just hope we don't bog ourselves down and say, it's not perfect, because I don't know what perfect looks like. But I'm just hoping, again, to be brutally honest, that in a very near future, the board will take action. And I think we are trying to respond to the questions and comments that people are making. And as we move forward, if we discover there was language we should have had, then of course we will bring it back to the board for further consideration.
We have elections coming up. Want to make sure we don't subtract anything, so.
Well, there's some things you can't subtract because of the law.
That's my point.
Right,
so
you can't
we need
give
to
Well,
make
whether
less
sure.
it's
than
in
what
there
the
or
law
not, the law
requires.
is the law.
But you can give more than what the law requires, but you
Right.
can't give less.
That's right. And
That's
even
what
if
the-
it's not stated in
I
our
thought that was
policy.
your question.
That was the question,
Okay.
okay? It wasn't the math.
Okay.
Jamie know what, Mr. Cater, sorry, know what I was talking about. So,
Now-
as long as you can't subtract.
As
after
as
10?
long as it's
It's
the
after 10.
law, it doesn't matter if it's in our policy.
That is true.
We have to adhere to it. We cannot do anything less than what the law requires.
But remember, the policy goes for our staff and the public. So most people are not lawyers. They may not know what the law is. So if it's in our policy, someone can't say, well, it was not in our policy. Well, it's in the law. Well, your school board policy doesn't state it. So this is kind of a, I think you and I talked about, it's a statement to tell people this is what the expectation, which is following the law. But most people are not you, Lisa, and Holly, to be truthful.
Thank goodness for me.
May I just
Speaking for
analyze
myself,
this
you're all
one step
glad there's not
further?
more than one.
I think what I hear Ms. Hazard saying is that perhaps we could do better. And what I was saying is, perhaps we can, and there's nothing that's stopping us from doing so in 6 months. So I'm not saying that we need to remove anything or anything like that, and maybe 6 months was a bad time frame because there might be new board members. So that wasn't my suggestion. It was just that maybe we can do better. Maybe we can update this policy, and we can continue to do that. There's nothing stopping us from doing that. So that's all.
All right, any further discussion? All right, we will
What pizza place is open?
announce the next meeting of the school board is Tuesday, June 25th, 2019. Don't be surprised if we have a work session. We certainly are going to have committee reports at 6 o'clock that evening, correct, Ms. Hall? All right. So if we need a work session, we can put it on after that, but we told them it would be 6 o'clock, and since we told them it would be that time, we will keep that time. We will not be changing what we commit to our committees for. All right, and everybody enjoy graduation. We've got all the schools covered.
Oh, when is that? No, I was kidding.
Saturday morning.
I know,
Thank you.
right?
Goodbye.